Chapter 2550 Sisters joining hands. Saint Ancestor Bloodheart's pearl was as big as a mountain, and it was emitting blood-red light with terrifying power. Xian Yanqing condensed countless Lotus Sword Qi to fight against Saint Ancestor Bloodheart, but he was still no match for her. The Lotus Sword Qi was destroyed, and a blood-red light almost hit Xian Yanqing, forcing her low retreat. Who the hell are you? You're not from this world. Saint Ancestor Bloodheart stared at Xian Yanqing, shock flashing through her blood-red eyes. As soon as he made his move, he could feel that Xian Yanqing's cultivation technique and the power he controlled were not from this world. You don't have the right to know who I am, Xian Yanqing said coldly. No matter who you are, no one will know if I kill you in this world. Kill. The blood-red light around Saint Ancestor Bloodheart became even more intense. The blood-red light entered the blood-red bead, causing it to shake violently. Roar! Roar! A furious roar suddenly came from the blood-red bead. Then, a huge demon crawled out of the blood-red bead. This evil demon was covered in blood-red scales. It had a wide mouth and sharp fangs, and its killing intent soared to the sky. On his back, there was a pair of blood-red wings that covered the sky when they were spread out. Kill! The demon roared and charged at Xian Yanqing. Demons from the abyss. Humph. They're just inferior demons, Xian Yanqing said coldly. A cold sword light appeared around him and attacked the blood-red demon. Roar! The demon roared and lapped its wings. A gust of wind swept towards Xian Yanqing. On the other side, Saint Ancestor Bloodheart also attacked. A blood-red sword light formed and slashed at Xueqi Yanqing. Facing the attacks from both sides, Xian Yanqing was even more vulnerable. Her sword light was quickly destroyed. Bang! Saint Ancestor Bloodheart's blood-red sword light slashed at Xian Yanqing. Although Xian Yanqing managed to form a black lotus to protect himself in time, he was still sent flying. His body trembled, and blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. Ancestral Dragon, you have no hope. If you don't become a martial god, it's all for nothing. In the dark void, the non-human divine ancestor sneered coldly. He and the ancestral dragon were locked in a fierce battle, and it was difficult to determine a winner in a short time. Zhu Long's face didn't look good. He didn't say anything and just kept attacking. As for the prison-suppressing steel, because it had been severely injured before, it could only fight against the heaven-breaking army now. Haha, die. I don't care who you are. If you go against me, you must die. Divine Ancestor Starkiller laughed and controlled the blood-red demon to attack Xian Yanqing. However, at this moment, the void split open, and a milky white sword light slashed toward the evil demon. This sword light was filled with holy light and had extremely shocking power. The evil demon was careless and was cut by the sword light, and one of its wings was directly cut off. The demon roared. The place where he had been cut off kept emitting burning sounds. It seemed that the sword light had a restraining effect on him. Holy light? Damn it, what's going on? Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart was furious. He's just a low-level evil demon. If it was before, I could turn him into ashes with a breath. A cold and arrogant voice was heard. Then, a figure suddenly appeared in the void. It was a beautiful woman in a white dress. She looked exactly like Xueqi Yanqing. Xian Yanjuan. You guys. Saint Ancestor Bloodheart looked at Xian Yanjuan, then at Xian Yanqing, and the surprise in his eyes deepened. I didn't expect that you would be able to advance to the demigod realm so quickly after devouring the memories of your previous life. You've surprised me. Xian Yanjuan didn't look at Holy Ancestor Bloodheart. Instead, he looked at Xueqi Yanqing and transmitted his voice. I won't be left behind by you. I won't let you do that thing alone. Xian Yanqing replied. Oh really? You're pretty confident, aren't you? But let's deal with this guy first. Xian Yanjuan chuckled, and a milky white holy light radiated from his body, as if a goddess had descended to the world. Holy and pure. Kill, kill, I don't care how many of you come, I'll kill you all. Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart roared as he controlled the demon and himself to attack Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan. Slash! Xian Yanjuan pressed her hand down, and countless white lotus flowers appeared in the air. They turned into sword qi and slashed at Saint Ancestor Bloodheart. She was also a demigod and her combat strength was no weaker than Xian Yangqing's. Moreover, her attack style was very similar to Xian Yongying's. When Xian Yanjun made his move, Xian Yanjing also made his move. The two of them joined forces to light against sacred ancestor Bloodheart. Boom! 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 The battle in the air was intense. Saint Ancestor Bloodheart was being held back by Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan. For a moment, the two sides were evenly matched. I blocked it. And NBSP countless people on the battlefield were shocked by this scene. However, both of them had different thoughts. And NBSP the evil god race was shocked, and unable to accept this. On the other hand, the Heaven Realm side was ecstatic. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that there would be such an expert in the Heaven Realm. Good. Venerable Sovereign Rebellion laughed. While the number one king's face was extremely ugly. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan were far more powerful than ordinary demigods, and they were able to resist sacred ancestor Bloodheart together. This kind of strength was too terrifying. In the Heaven Realm, it could be said that he was the strongest expert after the ancestral dragon. However, they had never heard of him before. However, it didn't matter. As long as it was from the Heaven Realm, it was line. Ha ha ha, Moke. It seems that things are not under your control. Zulong also laughed out loud. This was an unexpected surprise. Initially, he had pinned all his hopes on Lu Ming. He had never expected that there would be two such powerhouses in the Heaven Realm. As long they could hold off the sacred ancestor Bloodheart and wait for Lu Ming to make a breakthrough, they would have a greater chance of winning. The evil god world and the heavenly realm had been at war for countless years, and it was possible that it would be broken. DAOM Enit. How is this possible? The outsider sacred ancestor roared, his heart filled with shock. How could there be two such experts in the Heaven Realm? They looked like sisters, but their combat strength was so strong. In the past, there was no news at all. It was as if they had appeared out of thin air. Lu Ming's wife. It's Lu Ming again. The non-human divine ancestor was furious. The battle on the battlefield had entered a stalemate. The difference in strength between the two sides was not big, and the battle was brutal. People were dying at every moment. On the sinkhole battlefield, the Tan Longhorn and company were fighting non-human kings, but I was difficult to determine a victor. Suppress it for this lord. Dandan transformed into her true form, and she was extremely huge. Countless symbols filled the air, and her battle power was shocking. She fought two non-human kings by herself, and she wasn't at a disadvantage at all. In fact, she even had a slight advantage. I didn't expect this old turtle to be so strong after breaking through to the demigod realm. Not far away, the Tan Longhorn beetle thought unhappily. Lu Ming had been cultivating at the dragon's sovereign peak. Boom! Suddenly, a shocking aura surged from Lu Ming's body. He opened his eyes. Chapter 2551. Piercing through the heavenly Tao, the aura on Lu Ming's body soared to the sky like a long spear that was about to pierce through the heavens and earth. Break! Lu Ming shouted. His entire body emitted a dazzling purple-gold radiance as he tried to break free from the restraints and break through to the celestial, the arch realm. However, just as Lu Ming's aura burst out, a seven-colored glow suddenly appeared in his surroundings within a radius of 1,000,000 miles. The multicolored light enveloped Lu Ming, forming a terrifying pressure that pressed down on him and bound him. This was the power of the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao wanted to stop Lu Ming from breaking through. The Tao of domination was too terrifying. It should not have appeared in places like the Heaven Realm and the Evil God Realm. That was because once one stepped into the Heavenly Emperor Realm with the Tao of domination, one would be able to dominate the heavens and earth, even the heavenly Tao. This was something the heavenly Tao would not allow. It had to stop it. The terrifying pressure continued to press down on Lu Ming. It even formed invisible chains that wrapped around Lu Ming. Break! Lu Ming shouted loudly and exerted all his strength to struggle. Bang! 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 The invisible chains on Lu Ming's body were breaking apart continuously. However, after it shattered, more chains appeared. Buzz! Lu Ming's muscles and bones vibrated rapidly at a frequency of more than 50 billion times per second. Such a violent vibration produced a terrifying power that shattered the invisible chains that wrapped around him. At the same time, Lu Ming condensed a long spear in his hand with his ruler's power. Buzz! The long spear vibrated and swept in all directions. Lu Ming wanted to break the restraints of the heavenly Tao. Whoosh! 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 Rays of spear radiance shot up into the sky and spread in all directions. From a distance, one could only see countless spear radiance piercing holes in the sky and earth. He's starting to break through. In the distant dark void, the ancestral dragon sensed it right away and revealed a look of joy. At the same time, the non-human divine ancestor also sensed it, and his face darkened. It's not that easy to break through in the heaven realm with the Tao of domination. The heavenly Tao doesn't allow it. The non-human divine ancestor said coldly. Is that so? Yes, the ancestral dragon replied. At the same time, he reached out his dragon claw and exchanged a blow with the non-human divine ancestor. On the dragon's sovereign peak, Lu Ming's spear radiance was getting stronger and stronger. The power of every move he executed with the battle symbol art was amplified and strengthened. The power of catch move was extremely terrifying, and it kept blasting away the power of the heavenly Tao. Not enough, it's still not enough. I must trigger the double combat strength. Lu Ming's mind was racing. With his current strength, he simply couldn't completely break free of the heavenly Tao's restraints. In this case, he simply couldn't break through. Lu Ming kept unleashing the battle formula, hoping to trigger the double combat strength. The probability of Lu Ming triggering the doubling after about 8 or 9 times, combat strength was about 1/10. All of a sudden, Lu Ming felt an endless fighting spirit burst out from his body. This fighting spirit was transformed into strength, causing Lu Ming's strength to increase greatly. The battle formula had been successfully activated. Double combat power burst forth. Buzz! The long spear in Lu Ming's hand swept out. The power of the heavenly Tao in all directions was constantly shattered. Buzz! And NBSP whoosh. Then, Lu Ming's long spear trembled. Endless spear radiance broke through the air and pierced through the void, breaking the power of the heavenly path one by one. Boom! The aura on Lu Ming's body was getting stronger. How is that possible? In the dark void, the non-human divine ancestor's eyes widened in disbelief. Lu Ming was actually going to break the restrictions of the heavenly Tao. Ha ha ha! Zhu Long laughed wildly. Murderheart, quickly get rid of those 2 women and kill Lu Ming. Something's not right. The non-human divine ancestor hurriedly sent a voice transmission to sacred ancestor Bloodheart. At this moment, the sacred ancestor Bloodheart was still locked in a fierce battle with Zik Nianqing and Zik Nianjuan. A vicious glint appeared in sacred ancestor Bloodheart's eyes when he heard the non-human sacred ancestor's voice transmission. You 2 bitches. How dare you block me? Die die. Dick. Saint Ancestor Bloodheart roared. A terrifying aura suddenly burst out of his body, and endless bloodlight spread out and burned. Burn Shin power. Zhu Long was furious. Saint Ancestor Bloodheart's injuries hadn't recovered to their peak because there wasn't enough time. He might be able to in a few hundred or 1,000 years. Therefore, the strength of the sacred ancestor Bloodheart had only barely reached the martial god realm. But now, sacred ancestor Bloodheart was burning his divine power without any regard for the consequences. This way, his battle power would rise to its peak in a short time. Sacred ancestor Bloodheart burned his divine power, and his battle power skyrocketed. He slashed out 2 times in a row with shocking power. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjin's expressions changed as they set up layers of defense front of them. However, their defenses couldn't withstand the attack of Saint Ancestor Bloodheart at all. They were crushed and sent flying tens thousands of miles away. Their delicate bodies trembled and blood flowed from their mouths. 2 stinky women. You still want to stop me? Go to Hell. Saint Ancestor Bloodheart recalled the demon. The blood-red light condensed into a sword and slashed at Xian Yonging and Xian Yanjuan. Zik Nyonging and Zik Nianjuan defended with all their might. They didn't want to make any mistakes, but they wanted to avoid any. However, after recovering to her peak, Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart was indeed very powerful. She wasn't weaker than the ancestral dragon or the non-human sacred ancestor. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan were only demigods, so they couldn't fight against sacred ancestor Bloodheart at her peak. After a few moves, they were sent flying. The hearts of the people from the heaven realm sank. If this continued, the situation would not be good. He's burning his divine power, so he won't be able to hold on for long. As long as we can hold him off for a while, we'll have a chance of winning. Xian Yanging, do you still remember the dark holy light technique? Xian Yanjuan, send a message to Zik Nianqing. I remember. Xian Yanqing nodded. All right, then we'll use dark holy light technique to set up a dark holy light cage and stop him for a while. Xian Yanjuan said. Xian Yanqing nodded, and the two of them moved almost at the same time. Instead of retreating, they advanced and charged at Saint Ancestor Bloodheart. The moment they charged out, their bodies emitted a brilliant radiance. The difference was that Xian Yanqing's body was covered in endless darkness. Her body seemed to have turned into a black hole. It was so dark that her figure could not be seen at all. As for Xian Yanjuan, he was surrounded by endless white light, more dazzling than the sun in the sky. Many people couldn't open their eyes. Dark holy light technique. Two crisp sounds were heard at the same time. Instantly, endless black and white light enveloped Saint Ancestor Bloodheart. The speed of the light was unbelievably fast, and it immediately enveloped Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart. Then, the black light and the white light intertwined like silk threads, forming a cage. This was the Dark Holy Light Cage, a terrifying secret technique that could only be set up by Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan together. Break, Dick! Saint Ancestor Bloodheart roared. The blood-red sword light cut across the void and slashed at the Dark Holy Light Cage. Boom! An earth-shattering boom was heard. However, the attack didn't break the Dark Holy Light Cage. It only made it shake violently. D23. Chapter 2551. Stepping into the Heavenly Emperor stage. Seeing that his sword attack had failed, Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart was enraged. His divine power began to burn. Although burning his Shen power like this was extremely taxing on him and would leave behind terrifying after effects, he couldn't care about it now. As long as he could level the heaven realm and successfully split open the sky, the gods from beyond the heavens would definitely bestow him with treasures. His injuries and after effects were nothing. He held a blood-red sword and slashed at the Dark Holy Light Cage. Boom! Boom! The Dark Holy Light Cage shook violently. Every time Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart's sword hit it, Zik Nianqing and Xian Yanjuan's delicate bodies would tremble and their faces would turn paler. It was obvious that Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart's attack had also put a great burden on them. But they gritted their teeth and persevered. Now, it all depended on who could hold on. Whoever could hold on would be the winner. Break, break, break. Saint Ancestor Bloodheart attacked crazily, and she could unleash over 100 strikes in an instant. The two sides were in a stalemate. However, Lu Ming was progressing smoothly. He activated the doubling of his combat power, and his combat power skyrocketed. He kept bombarding the power of the Heavenly Tao, breaking the restraints of the Heavenly Tao into pieces. In the end, the spear spun and swept across the sky, completely blasting away the power of the Heavenly Tao. Boom! At that moment, the aura on Lu Ming's body exploded and rose to its peak. Break! Lu Ming let out a long howl, his long hair flying in the wind. Then, a loud boom erupted from his body. He had broken through a bottleneck. His realm had risen to a whole new level. That was the Heavenly Emperor realm. At this moment, Lu Ming seemed to be able to control and dominate everything. The entire heaven realm was under his control. The battlefield of the sinkhole and the great battle in Two World City were also under his perception. Has the final battle begun? Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. Previously, he had been cultivating with all his heart, trying to break through to the next realm. He had no other thoughts in his mind. He didn't expect that the final battle had already begun. Little Qing, Qiu Yu, Xiang Xiang. Lu Ming sensed Xian Yanqing, Lu Xiangxiang, and the rest. He was relieved to find that they were fine. Then, Lu Ming waved his hand and countless divine stones flew out. Although Lu Ming had a breakthrough in his realm, his energy had not caught up. He had to absorb a large amount of energy and transform into world energy and domination energy. Bang bang bang. Countless godstones exploded. Lu Ming did not care about wasting it now. What he wanted was to stabilize his cultivation as soon as possible and partake. IP8 in the big battle. Hoo. Lu Ming absorbed it crazily. Endless divine qi was swallowed into his body and transformed into the power of the world and the power of domination. Lu Ming's small world was expanding crazily. Not enough, far from enough. Speed up, speed up. Lu Ming growled. In the end, he simply took out all the divine stones he had. Piles of divine stones exploded and were devoured by Lu Ming. The amount of energy Lu Ming needed to break through to the heavenly emperor realm was too shocking. The main thing was that a portion of the energy would be converted into ruler's power, which consumed the most energy. Before Lu Ming left, he had more than 10,000 chaos gems left. However, to Lu Ming now, these chaos gems were like a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. They were not of much use to him. Therefore, Lu Ming had given them to Lu Xiangxiang, Ouyang Moli, and Bubbles for use. Lu Ming was now using the divine stone to cultivate. Fortunately, he had obtained a large number of divine stones in the Yellow Springs world. Time continued to pass as Lu Ming's aura grew stronger and more shocking. Of course, the number of divine stones he devoured also increased. The situation at the two-world city battlefield had also entered a state of white heat. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan tried their best to stop Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart, but the two's faces turned pale and blood kept flowing out of their mouths under her frenzied attacks. Killing Heart, it's too late. Let's end this quickly. The non-human Sacred Ancestor sent a voice transmission to Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart anxiously. He realized that Lu Ming was about to break through successfully. DAMN bitches. I'll make sure you never reincarnate. Explode, explode. Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart roared and took out the blood-red bead. Endless blood-red light from his body entered the bead. Buzz! The blood-red bead trembled violently and burst out with a bright blood-red light. Not good. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjin's expressions changed. Boom! Then, the blood-red bead exploded. This was a divine weapon that Serpa said the Heaven Dao soldiers. When it exploded, the power was unbelievably great. Endless destructive power swept in all directions and struck the dark holy light cage. In an instant, the dark holy light cage exploded. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjin's bodies were swept away by the force and were thrown back. They spat out blood and were severely injured. Dick! Saint Ancestor Bloodheart's psyches were bloodshot as he pounced at Zik Nianqing with endless killing intent. Buzz! His terrifying, withered hand reached out to grab Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing was severely injured and could not avoid this attack. If he was HIT, he would die. At this critical moment, the SPACE in front of Zik Nianqing suddenly split open. A long spear flew out and stabbed at Saint Ancestor Bloodheart's palm. Thump! The spear hit Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart's palm with a loud boom. The spear was knocked away, but Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart was also forced back. A hole had appeared in his palm, and bloodlight was wriggling inside. His eyes were filled with shock. One had to know that he was burning his divine power and his fighting power had recovered to its peak. However, the spear had injured his palm. His blood-red eyes looked forward. In front of them, the void cracked open. A tall and slender young man in a black robe appeared behind Xian Yanqing. He wrapped his arm around Xian Yanqing's slender waist and pulled him into his arms. This young man was Lu Ming. He had refined 90% of the godstones on him, and finally stabilized his cultivation at the Heavenly Emperor realm. Just then, Saint Ancestor Bloodheart had detonated his divine weapon and destroyed Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjin's dark holy light cages. He rushed over without hesitation. With his current cultivation, he could reach Two-World City in an instant from Dragon Sovereign Peak. Little Qing, are you okay? Lu Ming asked with concern. Lu Ming, you're finally here. Xian Yanqing smiled. Little Qing, take this fruit of life. A fruit of life appeared in Lu Ming's hand and he fed it to Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing took it and swallowed it in one gulp. His body glowed with a bright light. Life fruit, you still have. Sking Lu Ming take out the fruit of life, Saint Ancestor Bloodheart's eyes were filled with greed. Do you want it? I have a lot of them. Lu Ming looked at Saint Ancestor Bloodheart and waved his hand. 9 life fruits appeared in his hand and one led towards Xian Yanjuan. Xian Yanjuan caught the fruit of life without hesitation and swallowed it. Her injuries were healing rapidly. So many life fruits. Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart was shocked. Chapter 2552 Battle of Killing Intent. Lu Ming took out 9 life fruits in one go. Including the one he gave to Xian Yanqing. There were 10 in total. Not only was the Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart shocked, but the non-human Sacred Ancestor was equally shocked. He clearly remembered that there were only 18 fruits of life on the fruit tree of life. They had obtained 11, while the Heaven Realm had only obtained 7. Lu Ming, where did you get so many life fruits? A fortuitous encounter. Lu Ming must have had a fortuitous encounter. The non-human Divine Ancestor roared in jealousy. At the same time, he also thought about why the T-Ib Tan Longhorn Beetle, 9 Lives Devilish Silkworm, and the others' cultivation had improved so much that they had broken through to the demigod realm. Why were the injuries of Venerable Sovereign Rebellion and the others all recovered to their peak? It must be the fruit of life. The non-human Divine Ancestor was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. He had worked hard and only obtained 11 fruits of life, which were only enough for him and the Bloodheart Saint Patriarch. He was extremely depressed at the thought of Lu Ming obtaining a large number of fruits of life and greatly increasing the strength of the Heaven Realm. As for Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart, he was first shocked at the sight of so many life fruits, but then he became deeply greedy. And NBSP, his injuries had not fully healed, and now that he was burning his Shin power, he had used up a lot of his energy, adding more injuries to his own. If he could obtain so many life fruits, he would be able to quickly recover. Give me the life fruit. Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart roared. Give it to you? Come and get it yourself. Lu Ming kept the life fruit and held the Great Desolation Spear in his hand. His aura was getting stronger and stronger. La Ming, I didn't devour you. Now, I'll completely destroy you. Die! Saint Ancestor Bloodheart roared. He turned into a beam of blood-red light and charged at Lu Ming. Boom! A bright purple-gold light rose from Lu Ming's body. The world energy and the ruler's energy in his body circulated wildly. Then he thrust his spear forward. The Great Desolation Spear quickly turned into a spear radiance and stabbed at Saint Ancestor Bloodheart. Thump! The two of them exchanged a blow, creating a terrifying shock wave that spread in all directions. The void was completely shattered. The blood-red light shattered, and Saint Ancestor Bloodheart retreated. Lu Ming also retracted his spear. What? In a head-on battle, Lu Ming blocked the attack of the Killing Heart's Divine Ancestor. Heavens, what did I just see? Did Lu Ming become a god? How did this happen? At this moment, be it the Heaven Realm or the evil god race, everyone was deeply shocked and stunned. Lu Ming was able to fight a martial god head-on. This was too shocking. The difference was that after the evil god tribe's initial shock, they were filled with endless fear. After the Heaven Realm side recovered from their shock, they were overjoyed. Ha ha ha! Moku, this time around, it's your evil god race that should be exterminated. The ancestral dragon laughed out loud. How is this possible? This is impossible. The non-human Divine Ancestor's mind was chaos. He simply couldn't accept this. He had planned for countless years and worked hard for countless years, but in the end, this was the result he got. He really couldn't bear it. If Lu Ming could fight against the Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart, it would be very disadvantageous to them. There were still Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan in the heavenly realm. Killing Heart, is this all you've got? Then today, the person I'm going to exterminate is you. Lu Ming waved his long spear and took a step forward. His figure was like a stream of light as he charged towards Saint Ancestor Bloodheart. Blood Sea Sword skill. Die! Saint Ancestor Bloodheart roared. A blood sea appeared behind him, and endless blood-red sword light flew out of the blood sea and slashed at Lu Ming. My lord! Lu Ming cast the ruler's power and dominated the world. The ruler's power acted on the blood-red sword light, and the direction of the blood-red sword light immediately changed slightly. It did not stab Lu Ming at all, and all flew past him. In an instant, Lu Ming approached Holy Ancestor Bloodheart and swept his spear out. The spear light was millions of miles long, and it struck the Blood Sea. The Blood Sea collapsed, and Saint Ancestor Bloodheart retreated. Whoosh! Whoosh! The great desolation spear continued to pierce through the void, shattering it. Lu Ming and the Killing Heart Saint Ancestor fought their way into the dark void. Now that Lu Ming had broken through to the Heavenly Emperor realm, his combat strength had increased greatly. When all aspects were combined, he could be compared to a martial god and was no weaker than the ancestral dragon, the divine ancestor of the non-human race at his peak. This was under the condition that Lu Ming had not triggered the double combat strength. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming and Saint Ancestor Bloodheart fought their way into the dark void. They exchanged several moves in a row, causing the dark void to tumble continuously. The double combat strength of the battle character formula had ended after Lu Ming broke through to the celestial, the arch realm. Therefore, Lu Ming was only in his normal state and not in the state of doubling his combat strength. Lu Ming circulated the way of domination to the extreme. The power of the world and the power of domination howled in his body. The Dominator's power in Lu Ming's body had already occupied more than half of the total power. This was also the key to Lu Ming's ability to fight against the martial god. In the future, as Lu Ming's cultivation level increased, the proportion of the ruler's energy would also increase. Lu Ming estimated that when he cultivated to the peak of the Heavenly Emperor realm, all the world energy in his body would be transformed into the ruler's energy. At the same time, Lu Ming cast the battle symbol art. Although it did not trigger the double combat power, with the enhancement of the battle symbol art, Lu Ming's every move was astonishingly powerful. He was evenly matched with the Saint Ancestor Bloodheart at his peak. In fact, Lu Ming was even slightly better. After Lu Ming and Saint Ancestor Bloodheart entered the dark void, Xueqi and Xueqi had almost recovered from their injuries with the help of the fruits of life. Xueqing's eyes were cold as he scanned the crowd. Black lotuses appeared around him and turned into sword chi that flew towards the giant. The giants of the sky-breaking army were still fighting fiercely with the prison-suppressing steel. However, the trace of the prison-guarding patriarch's scowl and the prison-guarding steel had limited energy. After fighting for so long, it was almost unable to hold on. It was the perfect time for Xueqi to make his move. Roar! The giant of the sky-breaking army reached out with a huge hand and attacked Xueqing's sword chi. Bang! Bang! A series of clashing sounds rang out, and the heaven-crushing army's giant body trembled violently as it retreated continuously. The ground beneath its feet continued to crack, and in a moment of carelessness, it crushed a few hundred evil god tribesmen who were unable to retreat in time. Xueqi was able to fight with the martial god, sacred ancestor Bloodheart, and his strength was above the sky-breaking army. Slash! Xueqi shouted coldly. With a wave of his hand, the endless sword light gathered into a huge black sword chi, which once again slashed at the giant formed by the sky-breaking army. The giant raised his fist to block, but this time, his fist was directly cut in half by the sword light. Within the list, many of the sky-breaking army's experts exploded and died. In an instant, hundreds of heaven-crushing army experts were killed, including more than a dozen heavenly compeers. The giant of the sky-breaking army retreated. However, at this moment, a milky white sword radiance slashed down from the sky. Xueqi made his move. The head of the sky-breaking army giant was cut off, and another few hundred of the sky-breaking army fell. As a result, the giant formed by the sky-breaking army directly collapsed. The formation was broken. 22. Chapter 2554 Suppression. With the formation of the sky-breaking army broken, it was difficult for them to gather their power together, and their fighting strength was greatly reduced. Nearly 100,000 people retreated in a frenzy, their hearts filled with shock. Their heaven-crushing army had formed a great formation and was invincible. Other than the martial god, they feared no one. However, they were defeated by Xueqi and Xueqi in just a few moves. Don't panic. Gather and set up the formation. The commander of the sky-breaking army roared. He was a halb god, and he wanted to gather the sky-breaking army again to form a formation to fight against Xueqi and the others. However, as soon as he finished speaking, 5 black lotus flowers appeared around him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The lotus spun, and its petals turned into sharp sword Qi, flying toward him. The sky-breaking army's commander's expression changed as he swung his axe to block. After a series of clashing sounds, the heaven-crushing army's commander's body trembled violently. The Heaven Dao soldier's battle-axe in his hand was chipped, and his chest had been pierced through by a sword Qi. He was severely injured and spat out a large mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with shock. How could he be so strong? He was extremely frightened. After all, he was a demigod and was known as an unrivaled master. However, he was severely injured after exchanging a single blow with Xian Yanqing. Basent. The next moment, Xian Yongying appeared beside him. Not good. The heaven-crushing army's commander was shocked and quickly retreated, but it was too late. A sword light flashed, and his head flew high into the air. In a battle of the same level, he had no way of fighting back against Xian Yanqing. Kill! Xian Yanqing's eyes were cold and merciless. With a wave of his hand, endless sword Qi rushed towards the heaven-breaking army. The sky-breaking army originally had 100,000 overlords, 5,000 heavenly emperors, and 95,000 great emperors. However, they were now vulnerable to Xian Yanqing. Wherever the sword Qi Par said, the sky-breaking army's experts were pierced through and killed. No matter if it was a heavenly emperor or a great emperor, it was the same. Even a peak heavenly emperor couldn't block Xian Yanqing's attack. At the same time, Zik Nianjuan also made his move. His attack style was very similar to Zik Nianqing's. Wherever the milky white sword light Pares said, a large number of sky-breaking army masters were killed. It was a one-sided Ma's Saker, like harvesting wheat. The experts of the sky-breaking army were all killed. No Dam in it. No. The number one king of the non-human race, the older kings, felt their hearts bleed. The heaven-crushing army was the strongest army of the evil god race. So many powerful beings had died just like that. At the same time, they were extremely frightened. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan were simply unstoppable. After they finished killing the sky-breaking army, wouldn't it be their turn? They had seen how the demigod had been killed by Xian Yanqing in seconds. If it were them, it wouldn't be much different. Divine Ancestor, what should we do? The number one king roared, and his voice traveled through the dark void toward the non-human Divine Ancestor. Retreat! Form a large formation and defend with all your might. The non-human Divine Ancestor Ascent. The non-human Divine Ancestor was also furious. He had never expected the battle to turn out like this. Before the battle, he was full of confidence. On the surface, the evil god tribe side had the upper hand, be it the low-end, mid-level, or high-end combat forces. Moreover, the martial god realm had him and the sacred ancestor Bloodheart. As long as they made a move, the scene would definitely be one-sided. They would definitely be able to flatten the heaven realm. However, after the battle, everything was beyond his expectations. In the beginning, the Tan longhorn beetle, the 9 lives devilish silkworm, and the divine turtle of the world had appeared one after another. They had all broken through to the demigod realm and held back a portion of their strength. After that, Venerable Sovereign Rebellion and the others actually recovered from their injuries. What was even more unexpected was that Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan seemed to have appeared out of thin air and held Saint Ancestor Bloodheart back until Lu Ming broke through. La Ming, it's all Lu Ming. The non-human Divine Ancestor roared in his heart. All of this was because of Lu Ming. He had taken out a large number of life fruits, the Tan longhorn, the 9 lives devilish silkworm, and the others to break through. Venerable Sovereign Rebellion and the others had only recovered because of Lu Ming's fruit of life. In fact, Xian Yanqing was Lu Ming's wife. Lu Ming was the reason why the situation had developed to this point. Now, they could only defend and hold their ground. They would only have a chance to turn the tables when Saint Patriarch Murderheart killed Lu Ming or the Ancestral Dragon. At the thought of this, he could not help but look at the place where Lu Ming and the sacred ancestor Bloodheart were fighting. His pupils constricted at first glance. At this moment, Lu Ming had completely gained the upper hand and suppressed Saint Ancestor Bloodheart. Lu Ming and the sacred ancestor Bloodheart had already exchanged hundreds of moves in the dark void. Lu Ming did not activate the battle formula to double his combat strength. He was only fighting with Saint Patriarch Murderheart in his normal state. However, Lu Ming's courage mounted as the battle progressed. Previously, he had just broken through and was not very familiar with the use of his strength. However, after the battle, he was able to use the sudden surge in strength with ease. In addition, the battle symbol art was truly wondrous. When used, no matter what attack it would greatly increase one's combat power. In addition, Saint Ancestor Bloodheart burned his divine power. The longer the battle went on, the weaker he would be. Thus, Lu Ming had the upper hand. Whoosh! Whoosh! The Great Desolation Spear in Lu Ming's hand danced like a real dragon, and spearlight shot towards Saint Ancestor Bloodheart. Saint Ancestor Bloodheart retreated continuously, and it was getting more and more difficult for him to resist. PM. Lu Ming's spear had pierced through Saint Ancestor Bloodheart's body, but he was trying his best to recover. The wound was wriggling with bloodlight, trying to heal. However, at this moment, his expression suddenly changed. Then, the aura on his body rapidly weakened. He had not recovered from his injuries and had not returned to his peak condition. He had burned his Shen power to reach his peak condition, which was difficult to maintain for a long time. Now, his divine power was almost exhausted, and his condition was rapidly declining. How could Lu Ming miss this opportunity? His eyes turned cold and he struck down with a Great Desolation Scar. Bang! Sacred Ancestor Sacred Heart was sent flying. His body was almost cut in half. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood and his aura became even more dispirited. Die! Lu Ming took a step forward and caught up with Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart. The Great Desolation Spear shook and was covered with a brilliant power of the Dominator. It charged towards Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart, intending to destroy him completely. Saint Ancestor Bloodheart retreated frantically, but he still couldn't dodge Lu Ming's attack. His body was smashed into pieces, turning into a sea of blood. Refine! Lu Ming stretched out his palms. The purple gold Dominator's power transformed into two huge palms. They closed and enveloped the blood sea in the center of the palms. Lu Ming wanted to use the power of a ruler to completely refine the Holy Ancestor Bloodheart. No, no, Mo, come and save me, no! Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart shouted in horror. He tried to break out of the ruler power's encirclement, but he couldn't. Lu Ming, the non-human divine ancestor, roared. His golden hair flew in the wind as he used all his strength to exchange a few blows with the ancestral dragon. He seized the opportunity and rushed toward Lu Ming. Chapter 2554. Killing the martial god. The non-human divine ancestor used all his strength and finally seized the opportunity to break free from the ancestral dragon's obstruction and charged toward Lu Ming. Boom! The non-human divine ancestor threw a punch. A golden fist crossed the boundless void and headed toward Lu Ming with overwhelming power. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. He shook the Great Desolation Spear and thrust it out. As soon as he thrust his spear, the non-human divine ancestor's fist arrived and collided with Lu Ming's spear radiance. With a deafening boom, the Great Desolation Spear shook continuously. A terrifying force was transmitted, causing Lu Ming to take a few steps back. A divine artifact. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. The non-human divine ancestor was wearing a golden glove on his fist. It was obvious that this pair of gloves was a divine weapon, a weapon specially used by the martial god, and it was extremely powerful. Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart's divine weapon had self-destructed, but the non-human divine ancestor's was still there. Thus, his battle power was slightly stronger than Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart's, who had burned his divine power. Kill! The non-human divine ancestor bellowed. His fists were like two golden suns as he punched toward Lu Ming. Moke, I'm your opponent. Now that the ancestral dragon had arrived, he would not allow the divine ancestor to attack Lu Ming. Al stepped out with his dragon claws and fought the divine ancestor. At the same time, a dragon horn floated above the ancestral dragon's head. It kept slashing out like a saber. It was also a divine weapon. The ancestral dragon's combat power wasn't any weaker than the non-human divine ancestors. He couldn't take it lightly and had to fight the ancestral dragon with all his might. Boom! Boom! The non-human divine ancestor exchanged a few more blows with the ancestral dragon, while Lu Ming seized the opportunity to continue refining sacred ancestor Bloodheart. Saint Ancestor Bloodheart kept erupting, trying to break through Lu Ming's defense. "Moke, save me, save me!" Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart roared. The non-human divine ancestor's face was extremely cold. He exchanged a few blows with the ancestral dragon in a frenzy. He gritted his teeth and suddenly changed his move. He risked taking a blow from the ancestral dragon and then rushed toward Lu Ming. Baz! In the blink of an eye, the non-human divine ancestor closed in on Lu Ming and threw hundreds of punches. Lu Ming waved the Great Desolation Spear to block it. The non-human divine ancestor's strength was indeed astonishing after hundreds of collisions. Lu Ming had to resist the non-human divine ancestor and ultimately didn't have the extra energy to refine the sacred ancestor Bloodheart. As a result, the sacred ancestor Bloodheart managed to escape. Sacred ancestor Bloodheart escaped and regrouped with the non-human sacred ancestor. "Let's go, let's retreat," the non-human divine ancestor said. Right now, they were at a complete disadvantage. They could only retreat and make plans later. "If you want to leave, then stay." The ancestral dragon's horn was like a heavenly blade that kept slashing at the non-human divine ancestor. The non-human divine ancestor had to focus when facing the ancestral dragon's attack. Baz! And NBSP whoosh! Lu Ming also brandished his spear, and the dazzling spear light enveloped the non-human divine ancestor and the murderous heart divine ancestor. Saint Ancestor Bloodheart's combat strength had declined, and he was no longer a match for Lu Ming and the others. He could only resist with the help of the non-human divine ancestor. At this moment, the non-human divine ancestor had to face the ancestral dragon and defend against Lu Ming's attacks at the same time. He was at a disadvantage. Battle Symbol Art. In the process of the battle, Lu Ming constantly activated the battle formula in an attempt to double his combat power. The two sides exchanged dozens of blows in a row, and the non-human divine ancestor and the sacred ancestor Bloodheart were forced to retreat. Boom! All of a sudden, there seemed to be an explosion in Lu Ming's body. The double combat power of the battle character formula was triggered, and Lu Ming's combat strength skyrocketed. Back! Calm, the non-human divine ancestor hurriedly blocked the spear light with his fists. Boom! This time, the non-human divine ancestor was sent flying by Lu Ming. His body trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. How is this possible? The non-human divine ancestor roared in his heart. This was simply unbelievable. At this stage of the battle, Lu Ming could actually erupt with even stronger combat strength. Moreover, I was a huge increase and he had completely suppressed him. As soon as the non-human divine ancestor retreated, sacred ancestor Bloodheart was exposed. Kill! Lu Ming let out a long roar. The Great Desolation Spear turned into a pillar that held up the sky and smashed toward Saint Ancestor Bloodheart. Saint Ancestor Bloodheart turned into a sea of blood, rolling wildly. He wanted to dodge, but he couldn't. At this moment, Lu Ming had activated the double combat power of the battle character formula. Under the pressure of the Great Desolation Spear, the sea of blood formed by Saint Ancestor Bloodheart was directly split in half. A terrifying destructive power burst out of the Great Desolation Spear. The sea of blood formed by Saint Ancestor Bloodheart kept shattering and turning into small pieces. Refine. Then, Lu Ming used his ruler's power to envelop the small pieces of the sea of blood and began to refine them. Chi. Green smoke filled the air as Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart's blood sea was refined at an extremely fast speed. "Moke, save me, he cried. Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart was still calling for help. "Murderer Xian, go in peace. Emoka can't save you," the ancestral dragon said coldly as he charged toward the non-human divine ancestor. At this moment, the non-human divine ancestor's face was dark, and there was madness in the depths of his eyes. He didn't fight the ancestral dragon. Instead, he turned and rushed to the other side. That was the direction of the Tai Ching heavenly region. Not good. The ancestral dragon seemed to have thought of something, and his face changed drastically as he chased after the non-human divine ancestor. "Lu Ming, hurry up and chase after her. We can't let Moke reach the Tai Ching heavenly region." The ancestral dragon's voice came. He seemed to be very anxious. Kill! Lu Ming waved his hands and endless spear radiance appeared out of thin air, lacking the remaining blood SCA. No, die! Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart roared. Then, endless spear radiance descended and tore apart the sea of blood. It then dissipated under the refinement of the ruler's power. In an instant, Saint Ancestor Bloodheart had completely disappeared. Not a single trace was left behind. This time, Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart had been completely annihilated. There was no chance of her being resurrected. A martial god had been completely killed by Lu Ming. After completely annihilating the Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart, Lu Ming sped up to the maximum and chased after the Ancestral Dragon and the non-human Divine Ancestor. All of this took time to describe, but it actually happened in an instant. However, the Divine Ancestor of the non-human race had already reached the Tai Ching Heavenly Domain and arrived next to the lair of Zulong. Moke! The Ancestral Dragon roared and spat out a destructive light beam toward the non-human Divine Ancestor. However, the non-human Divine Ancestor's eyes were filled with madness. Al didn't care about the Ancestral Dragon's attack and punched out. The terrifying power directly shattered the SPABCE within a radius of 10 million miles. Through the SPABCE, one could clearly see the appearance of a small world. This small world was the lair of Zulong. The non-human Divine Ancestor's terrifying punch landed on the lair of Zulong. The lair of Zulong was like a balloon that exploded with a punch from the non-human Divine Ancestor. After the lair of Zulong was blown up, the void suddenly filled with a dazzling golden radiance. From afar, Lu Ming could see a huge and boundless sigil covering the sky. That's... Lu Ming's pupils constricted in shock. He had never expected that there would be such a huge sigil behind the lair of Zulong. Heaven-suppressing seal. Ancestral Dragon, you're delusional to seal the sky. Today, I'll tear the seal apart and bury all of you with me. The non-human Divine Ancestor roared as his entire body seemed to be on fire. He transformed into a divine sword and charged toward the seal. Chapter 2556 Non-Human Divine Ancestor Falls. D.A.M.N.it. The Ancestral Dragon's face changed. He controlled the dragon horn and slashed at the non-human Divine Ancestor while shouting, Lu Ming, quick, stop him. The Ancestral Dragon's voice was filled with panic. Although Lu Ming was puzzled, he knew that the golden sigil was most likely of great importance. Otherwise, the Ancestral Dragon would not have lost his composure. Lu Ming pushed his speed to the maximum. At the same time, he exerted all his strength to throw the great Desolation Spear. Whoosh! Lu Ming's combat power was doubled, so he was extremely powerful. The Great Desolation Spear turned into a bolt of lightning and flashed toward the non-human Divine Ancestor. However, the Divine Ancestor didn't care about the Ancestral Dragons and Lu Ming's attacks. All he could see was the golden seal. Boom! The non-human Divine Ancestor slashed at the golden seal like a sword. The golden seal shook violently and exploded with dazzling light. Selah! Like a piece of cloth being torn apart, a huge hole was torn on the golden seal. At that moment, the attacks of the Ancestral Dragon and Lu Ming arrived. Piff! The dragon horn controlled by the Ancestral Dragon hit the back of the non-human Divine Ancestor, almost cutting him in half. At the same time, Lu Ming's Great Desolation Spear stabbed the non-human Divine Ancestor from the back to the front. The non-human Divine Ancestor had been severely injured, and his aura was extremely weak. However, his face was filled with madness. Ha ha ha! The heaven-suppressing skull has been torn apart, and the experts from the outside world are coming. Ancestral Dragon, what's the point of sealing the sky? You're still going to die, all of you. Ha ha ha. The non-human Divine Ancestor laughed maniacally. Al didn't try to hide his voice, and it echoed throughout the entire heavenly realm. On the battlefield of the ruins of End and the battlefield of Two World City, everyone's expression changed when they heard this voice. They were all shocked. The faces of the evil god tribe members were especially pale. It was obvious that the non-human Divine Ancestor had lost. How did this happen? All the members of the evil god race found hard to believe and accept. If the Divine Ancestor had lost, then they would lose for sure. Retreat, retreat. All of a sudden, the evil god tribe's morale was completely destroyed, and they retreated frantically. Kill! The people from the heaven realm went on a killing spree. They didn't understand what the non-human divine ancestor meant, but they knew that the non-human divine ancestor had lost. Therefore their morale was greatly boosted, and they were completely chasing after the evil god tribe. Moke, you crazy! The ancestral dragon roared and charged at the non-human divine ancestor. I'm crazy. The ones who are crazy are you and that old fellow Genu. Both of you are stubborn and overconfident. The non-human divine ancestor laughed bitterly and used his remaining power to attack the golden skull. He was going all out. When he saw Lu Ming's combat strength increase and sacred ancestor Bloodheart killed, he knew that he would not be able to survive. Lu Ming and the ancestral dragon had joined forces. He would definitely die. That was why he had attacked the golden sigil crazily. His original plan was to flatten the heaven realm and kill the ancestral dragon before slowly tearing the golden skull. This time, he didn't succeed and was stopped by the ancestral dragon. At the same time, Lu Ming had arrived and joined forces to attack the non-human divine ancestor. The non-human divine ancestor had just been severely injured by the two of them and was extremely weak. He wasn't their match at all. After a few moves, Lu Ming punched a hole through the divine ancestor's body and he was torn apart by Zulong's dragon claws. Ancestral dragon, I'll be waiting for you below. The non-human divine ancestor laughed before the ancestral dragon controlled his horn to split his head in half. Thus, the non-human divine ancestor and the sacred ancestor Bloodheart had been completely annihilated. It was supposed to be a huge victory, but there was no joy on the ancestral dragon's face. Instead, he looked a little dejected. Looking at the torn golden seal, the ancestral dragon sighed helplessly. Senior, this is... Lu Ming was filled with doubts and was about to ask. Boom! At this moment, an extremely terrifying aura came from the crack in the golden skull. Even with Lu Ming's current cultivation base, he felt frightened and could not resist this aura. Zulong and Lu Ming retreated rapidly. What's that? At that moment, Lu Ming's eyes suddenly widened in shock. That was because there were two balls of light behind the crack. They seemed to be a pair of eyes, and they were bright and terrifying. Lu Ming's heart beat faster as he faced the two light orbs. It was as if he was an ant facing a giant beast from the ancient times. I've been discovered. A great calamity will soon befall us. Zulong sighed. However, the two balls of light flickered a few times and disappeared. Senior, what is that? Lu Ming asked. The powerful beings outside have their eyes on this place. However, they won't be able to enter for the time being. Let's go and exterminate the remaining Kfil God tribe members first before we talk about this in detail. Zulong said. All right. Lu Ming nodded. Although he was curious, he was not in a hurry. He took a step forward and charged toward the battlefield in Xueqi City. As for the ancestral dragon, he headed towards the battlefield of the ultimate. At this moment, the evil god tribe's sky-breaking army had almost been completely annihilated by Xueqi and Xianyanjuan. All 100,000 powerhouses had fallen. The evil god tribe was completely one-sided. They knew that the non-human divine ancestor was finished. They didn't have the courage to fight anymore. It wasn't just the ordinary experts that were fleeing. Even the celestial, the arch and demigods were fleeing. First, you escape so quickly. If you have the ability, let's fight to the death. Venerable Sovereign Renegade was right behind the number one king. The number one king's face was gloomy. He didn't say a word and madly tore open Ape-CE to escape. The other non-human demigods were the same. Whoosh! Suddenly, a black sword light flashed, and a non-human demigod nearby was killed. Then, a figure appeared. It was Xianyanqing. Xianyanqing's eyes were cold as he looked at the number one king. The number one king's face was as white as snow. Xianyanking's combat power was too strong. He was no match for him. If he was targeted, he would die. Rebellion, if you're going to die, then die together. All of a sudden, the number one king revealed a ferocious look. He did not run away. Instead, he rushed toward Venerable Sovereign Enil Wan. His body burst with terrifying fluctuations. Self-destruct. Venerable Sovereign Renegade's expression changed drastically. The #1 king knew that he couldn't escape, so he decided to risk everything and die with Venerable Sovereign Renegade. His strength was similar to that of Venerable Sovereign Renegade. If he chose to self-destruct, Venerable Sovereign Renegade would most likely die as well. Venerable Sovereign Rebellion retreated frantically, but he couldn't do so at the moment. At this moment, a purple gold hand suddenly appeared and grabbed at the #1 king. Ah! The #1 king roared. He wanted to self-destruct, but it was too late. He was directly caught by the purple gold hand. With a squeeze, the #1 king died on the spot. Then, a figure flashed and Lu Ming appeared. Is this the combat strength of a martial god? Venerable Sovereign Rebellion was shocked. The #1 king, who was not weaker than him, self-destructed with all his might. However, in Lu Ming's hands, he could not even self-destruct. He was like an ant that was crushed to death. In 23. Chapter 2557 Great Victory. Greater Crisis. Lu Ming and Xianyanqing looked at each other and smiled. Then, they tore the void apart and left. Escape, escape, escape. A few non-human kings were fleeing in a frenzy. However, a figure suddenly appeared in front of them. He's the one. When the kings saw this figure, their expressions changed drastically. This figure was naturally Lu Ming. Lu Ming's appearance here meant that the divine ancestor of the non-human race was in grave danger. Everyone, I'll send you on your way, Lu Ming said coldly. Then, he waved his hand and a spear radiance burst out. A few old kings of the non-human race wanted to escape, but they could not withstand a single blow from Lu Ming. A few old kings were pierced by Lu Ming's spear radiance and died on the spot. Lu Ming did not stop after killing a few of the old kings. He tore through the void and left. He specialized in hunting non-human experts above peak Heavenly Emperor because they could tear the void apart and travel through different worlds. It was very difficult to pursue them. However, in Lu Ming's hands, these people could not escape. Lu Ming kept shuttling through the void, killing the alien race's powerhouses who were at the peak of the Heavenly Emperor realm and above. As a result, the experts in the Heaven realm were free to join the army of the Heaven realm and pursue the alien races. One-sided. It had become completely one-sided. When the Heaven realm's peak experts and demigods entered the battlefield, it became a complete massacre. A large number of foreign heavenly emperors, great emperors, true emperors, void emperors, and quasi-emperors were slaughtered. This massacre continued for several days. Almost all the great beings of the other races had been slaughtered, and almost none of them had escaped back to the evil god world. A great victory. A true great victory. After that, the demigods from the Heaven realm, peak heavenly emperors, charged straight to the evil god tribe and razed the evil god realm's 10 great imperial cities and holy mountains. They slaughtered all the experts above the martial emperor realm. When facing the evil god tribe, no one showed mercy. It was because either one side would die or the other would. We won. We won. Ha ha ha. Cheers could be heard everywhere in the Heaven realm. Countless people were extremely excited. He had finally won. For countless years, the evil god tribe had been a huge rock that had been pressing down on the hearts of countless people in the Heaven realm. It was like a knife hanging over everyone's head, ready to cut down at any moment, making it hard for many people to breathe. But now, the evil god tribe that had suppressed the Heaven realm for countless years had been defeated by them. All of their experts had been killed. From now on, there would no longer be any enemies in the Heaven realm. Naturally, they would be very excited. Lu Ming did not partake in the battle that followed. He returned to the lair of Zulong. The ancestral dragon had arrived. Ie put his hands behind his back and looked at the golden seal and the hideous crack with an extremely ugly expression. Senior. Lu Ming cupped his fists. They're here. The ancestral dragon said. His voice was a little lonely, as if he had suddenly aged a lot. I know you have a lot of questions. I didn't want to tell you about this, but now I have to. I will gather everyone here and tell you everything in detail. Zulong said. Lu Ming nodded. Then, Zulong took out a big drum and hit it. Thump, thump, thump. The war drum shook, and the sound of the boom spread out at a terrifying speed. The entire Tai Ching heavenly region could hear it. It could even spread to other heavenly regions. In the heaven realm, countless people were celebrating. However, when they heard this war drum, everyone's expression changed drastically. What's going on? This is a war drum, and it's our gent that it's only sounded when there's an extreme crisis. Who sounded the war drum? This is the ancestral dragon war drum. Only senior ancestral dragon can sound it. What's going on? At this moment, the heavenly realm was in a mess. Didn't they win? Why did the ancestral dragon sound this kind of war drum? Could it be that there was another danger in the heaven realm? The excitement from before had disappeared, and everyone's heart was covered with a shadow. Countless people flew toward the lair of Zulong. Furthermore, the news spread rapidly. The experts who were struggling in the evil god realm had also heard the news and rushed to the lair of Zulong. Not long after, Zik Nianqing and Xian Yanjuan appeared in the void near the lair of Zulong. They looked at the golden skull and their eyes flashed as if they understood something. After that, more and more people came. Greetings, Lord War God. The crowd came forward and paid their respects to Lu Ming and the ancestral dragon. Lu Ming had fully displayed the combat strength of a martial god previously. Naturally, they treated Lu Ming as a martial god and were very respectful. Lu Ming and the ancestral dragon nodded and did not say much. As time passed, said, more and more creatures gathered around the lair of Zulong. After a few days, this place was densely packed with countless heaven realm powerhouses. The strongest group of people in the heaven realm had almost all arrived. Most of the people are here. Zulong looked around and said, today, I want to tell you some things. Originally, I didn't want to say these things. At the scene, no one spoke, waiting for the ancestral dragon to continue. The foreign race's divine ancestor, the divine ancestor Bloodheart, has already died. Zulong said. He's really dead. In the heaven realm, most of the people were ecstatic. They had only been guessing before, but now that the ancestral dragon had confirmed, they finally relaxed. However, some of them didn't look happy because they could see that the ancestral dragon didn't look happy at all. Instead, he looked solemn. Zulong waved his hand, and the scene quieted down. Let me tell you, although we have defeated the foreign kinds, a greater crisis is coming. Zulong continued. What? The moment the ancestral dragon said that, most of them were shocked and then looked puzzled. A bigger crisis? If the alien races were defeated, how could there be a greater danger? Don't tell me. Many people looked at the golden seal and the crack. Boom! At this moment, a terrifying aura came from the crack again. It was indescribably terrifying. Everyone's face changed and they wanted to kneel down. After that, 2 balls of light appeared and flickered non-stop. After a while, they left. Gulp, gulp. Many people kept swallowing their saliva, and their faces were very serious. They guessed that the danger the ancestral dragon was talking about might come from there. However, what was behind the golden seal? Why was there such a terrifying aura? It was many times stronger than the ancestral dragon. In this world, was there still an existence stronger than the martial god? Many people were puzzled. Do you know why the evil god tribe attacked our heaven realm? Do you know why they want to destroy our heaven realm? The ancestral dragon continued. The eyes of many people flickered, including Lu Ming. This question had been on Lu Ming's mind all along. Why did the evil god race have to attack the heaven realm and destroy it? It was not good for both sides to live in peace. Even if they were fighting for resources, they shouldn't be lying like this. In 23. Chapter 2558 Truth of the Ancient War. Everyone looked at the ancestral dragon, waiting for him to continue. Zulong pondered for a while, as if he was thinking about what to say. After a while he said, why did the evil god tribe and the foreign race's divine ancestor attack the heaven realm and destroy us? It's for that. Zulong pointed at the golden seal and said, the heaven-suppressing scowl. Their goal is to tear the heaven-suppressing seal apart. Heaven-suppressing seal. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They knew that the seal was called the heaven-suppressing seal. However, why did the evil god race have to tear the heaven-suppressing seal apart? If I want to know everything, I have to start from the structure of this world, or the universe. People who cultivate laws can cultivate a small world after they enter the martial emperor realm. However, no matter how strong their cultivation is, these small worlds still have flaws. As for the heaven realm, primordial realm, and evil god realm, they are naturally formed by heaven and earth, with perfect nomological laws and great death. They are ruled by the heavenly Tao. Such worlds allow people to cultivate continuously until they reach the half-god realm. These worlds are called small kiliacosm. Zhu Long paused for a moment as if he wanted to give everyone time to digest. A small world. Many people's hearts trembled and their imaginations ran wild. Hearing the ancestral dragon's words, other than the evil god realm, heaven realm, and primordial realm, could there be other worlds? Some people with weaker cultivation had originally thought that the world was only so big, with only the heaven realm, the primordial realm, and the evil god realm. They had never thought that there were other worlds, and were naturally even more shocked at this time. Everyone's imagination ran wild. If there are small worlds, there will naturally be big worlds. The greater world is known as the primal universe. It is also known as the divine realm. That place is vast and boundless. I wonder how vast it is. Zhu Long continued. As expected, the primal universe. Lu Ming's heart trembled. It was the second time he heard the term primeval universe. Back then, Baya had mentioned it on Netherworld Island. The primeval universe is too vast. A small kiliacosm is like a speck of dust compared to the primeval universe. The number of small kiliacosm attached to the primeval universe is beyond imagination. No one knows how many there are. And our heaven realm, primordial realm, and the evil god tribe are a small kiliacosm. Zhu Long continued to explain. What? Most of the people at the scene were dumbfounded. Zulong's words had subverted their worldview and their understanding. The heaven realm, the primordial realm, and the evil god realm added together was only a small kiliacosm. And there were countless small kiliacosm that were attached to the primeval universe. This meant that there were countless worlds that were similar to the heaven realm, the primordial realm, and the evil god realm. Above them, there was a vast primal universe. In the small kiliacosm, the highest cultivation can be reached is the demigod realm. If you want to break through to the martial god realm, you can only do so by going to the desolate universe. Before ancient times, the heaven realm, primordial realm, evil god realm, and the primeval universe were all connected. Therefore, before that era, many half-gods went to the primeval universe. Zhu Long said. Then why is it that no one has gone out and no one has heard of it? Someone could not help but ask. I know you have your doubts. The heaven realm, primordial realm, and evil god realm can be considered as small kiliacosm. There is only one Paras sage that leads to the primeval universe. That Paras sage is there. The ancestral dragon pointed at the seal and continued. The reason why we can't go out now that, in ancient times, I joined hands with the prison suppression patriarch and used the heaven suppression scowl to seal this Paras sage. What? Many people were shocked, especially some demigods. They couldn't understand why ancestral dragon and prison-guarding patriarch would work together to seal the Paras sage. At this moment, Zhu Long sighed with a bitter face. In fact, many small kiliacosm are controlled by some big forces in the primeval universe. We are no exception. We are controlled by a powerful force in the primeval universe. That force is called the Yuan Luo Palace. It is made up of many races and is extremely powerful. Our world is their private property. In the primal universe, the human race and the divine beasts and alien races are all very spiritual races. Therefore, the Yuan Luo Palace will come here every once in a while and choose a group of powerful supreme talents to go out. Do you know why they chose these supreme talents? Not to nurture them, but to use them to refine medicine and pills for their cultivation. Boom, boom, boom. The ancestral dragon's words shocked many people. Their world was controlled by a force called the Yuan Luo Palace in the primal universe. But the Yuan Luo Palace used them to refine elixirs. What's the difference between this and raising animals and spiritual herbs? That's right. The Yuan Luo Palace has turned this small world into a farm and a herb garden. When needed, they will extract some of the superior medicinal herbs to refine into medicine. All the humans and godly beasts are the medicinal herbs that the Yuan Luo Palace raises. Zhu Long said, his face turning uglier. How did this happen? Most of the people, including Lu Ming, looked very upset. They would never have thought that they were just medicinal herbs that were cultivated by others. This was a great irony and also a great blow. Zhenyu and I couldn't stand it. Zhenyu had a fortuitous encounter and obtained the heaven-suppressing seal. The two of us controlled the seal and sealed the Pares sage. However, when we were sealing it, we were still discovered by the people of the Yuanluo Palace. Some of the powerhouses of the Yuanluo Palace shouted and asked the evil god tribe to destroy us and open the scale. The evil god tribe isn't of much use to the Yuanluo Palace, and they rarely use them to refine elixirs. On the contrary, they've obtained many benefits from the palace. They naturally don't want the Pares sage to be scaled, so the divine ancestor of the non-human race and the sacred ancestor Bloodheart are determined to destroy us and open the seal. Zhu Long explained. Everyone suddenly understood. They understood everything now. They finally knew why the evil god race was so bent on attacking and destroying the heaven realm. They wanted to open the scale and claim credit from the Yuanluo Palace. The ancestral dragon and the prison-guarding patriarch couldn't bear to see the humans and divine beasts being enslaved by the Yuanluo Palace like this. That was why there was the ancient battle. Originally, I didn't want to say anything about this matter. If we defeat the evil god tribe, this matter can be resolved. However, if we lose, there's no need to reveal this secret. Sigh. The ancestral dragon sighed. Lu Ming sighed as well. He understood what the ancestral dragon was thinking. It was really hard to accept that they were just medicinal herbs that were raised in captivity. It was too demoralizing and sad. If he could choose not to say it, he would naturally choose not to. However, the divine ancestor of the non-human race tore a hole in the heaven-suppressing seal with a desperate strike. As a result, the powerhouses of the Yuanluo Palace outside will definitely find a way to enter. We won't be able to escape the disaster. You should know the whole story, so I'm telling you everything today. Zulong said. FF 23. Chapter 2559 Martial God Realm. Zulong explained everything clearly and the truth was revealed. Everyone's doubts were answered but no one was happy. There was only heaviness and anger. Kill. At most, well, charge out and fight to the death with that whatever Yuanluo Palace. Right, kill our way out. Even if we die, we must kill to our heart's content. Many hot-tempered people started to shout. Zhu Long raised his hand, and everyone quieted down. Tight? How should we fight? Zhu Long shook his head and sighed. Do you know how strong the Yuanluo Palace is? The evil god tribe can't even compare to them. I can tell you that I, Prison Guardian Patriarch, Sacred Ancestor Bloodheart, and the non-human Sacred Ancestor were all once from the Yuanluo Palace. We were just ordinary guards in the palace, and there were thousands of guards like us. Hiss. The ancestral dragon's words caused everyone to gasp. Everyone looked at each other. The ancestral dragon, the prison-guarding patriarch, and the non-human divine ancestor were all martial gods. In the heaven realm and the evil god realm, they were like myths and gods. However, such an existence was only an ordinary guard in the Yuanluo Palace, and there were thousands of such guards. How could they fight this? The other party could just send in a few martial gods and destroy them. The primal universe was also known as the Divine Realm. The Divine Realm, as its name suggested, was the world of gods. The four of us were sent here by the Yuanluo Palace to guard this place. To put it bluntly, we were sent here because we were weak. Therefore, it's very difficult for us to resist the Yuanluo Palace. However, a small kiliacosm is still a small kiliacosm. It's too weak, so terrifying experts can't enter. Once they enter, the small kiliacosm will collapse. Therefore, it's not like we have no hope. Zulong said. However, most of the people looked desperate. They couldn't imagine how they would fight against a force with thousands of martial gods. Alright, I've told you all that. I need to. You can go back and do what you need to do. If the people from the Yuanluo Palace come, well, just fight them. Zulong said. That's right. At most, well, just fight. If we dick, then we die. Some people shouted. More people sighed. Originally, they had been extremely happy and excited after defeating the evil god tribe. Who would have thought that an even more powerful and terrifying enemy would appear? This kind of situation truly made people despair. Most of the people left with heavy hearts. Lu Ming did not leave. He asked Xueqi and the rest to go back first. He stayed behind because he still had questions to ask the ancestral dragon. Not long after, everyone left, leaving only Lu Ming and the ancestral dragon. Lu Ming, I know you still have some questions. What do you want to know? Zulong said. Senior, I'm indeed confused. Since the Yuan Luo Palace has so many experts and the non-human divine ancestor could break the heaven-suppressing seal, why don't the experts of the Yuan Luo Palace break it from the outside? Lu Ming asked. That's right. The seal of heaven suppression was obtained from an ancient ruin. It's extremely powerful, and once it's sealed from the inside of the heaven realm, it can mobilize the power of the entire heaven realm. It's difficult for ordinary martial gods to break from the outside, but a stronger martial god can break it from the outside. However, small Kiliacosm is fragile. Once it is forcefully broken, the entire heaven realm will be destroyed. The Yuan Luo Palace is reluctant to do so. What they want most is to destroy us and open it from the inside. This way, the heaven realm and the primordial realm can still become their breeding ground for medicinal herbs. Zulong said. This answer made Lu Ming feel rather helpless. The other party did not attack because they were afraid of destroying the heaven. If the other party was ruthless, they might destroy the heaven at any time. Their destinies were not in their control. The Yuan Luo Palace will definitely not send anyone too strong in, but I'm afraid they'll send someone below the third level of the Void God realm. Zulong said. Ethereal God realm? Lu Ming was puzzled. Yes, this is the division of the martial god realm. Generally, those who have just become a martial god are in the Void God realm. Zulong nodded. Is there any realm above the Void God realm? Lu Ming asked curiously. Yes. Above the ethereal god realm, there's the true god realm, heavenly god realm, and king god realm. Each realm is divided into 9 levels. Zulong said. Ethereal god realm, true god realm, heavenly god realm, and king god realm. Lu Ming muttered. It turned out that there were still many realms above the martial god realm. He still had a long way to go. Although he was very strong now, he was only standing at the peak of the heaven realm, primordial realm, and evil god realm. However, the heaven realm, primordial realm, and evil god realm were just one of the endless small Kiliacosm. They were nothing compared to the primeval universe. Those above the 4th level of the Void God realm are too powerful. If their divine power surges, it's easy to break open a place like the heaven realm. Therefore, they'll most likely send those below the 3rd level of the Void God realm in. However, those below the 3rd level of the Void God realm will definitely be attacked by the heaven-suppressing seal and get injured. So, we might have a chance. However, we still have to be careful. The gap between each level of the Void God realm is huge. It's not something that the Heavenly Emperor realm can compare with. As for me, the divine ancestor of the non-human race, Genyu, and murderer Xian, were all at the 1st level of the Void God realm. Lu Ming, although you're a 1-star celestial emperor and can fight a 1st-level Void God realm existence, even if you've broken through to the 2-star celestial emperor realm, I don't think you can fight a 2nd-level Void God realm existence. Do you understand? Zulong warned him seriously. Lu Ming nodded. This was very easy to understand. In the Void God realm, the gap between catch level was even greater than that of a Beavenly Emperor. Even if he had broken through to the 2-star Heavenly Emperor realm, the increase in his strength was not as great as the Void God realm. Therefore, he was afraid that he would not be a match for a 2nd-level Void God. Of course, this was under the condition that he didn't trigger the battle formula that doubled his combat power. Lu Ming, go back and cultivate. I'll stay here and inform you immediately if there's any movement. Zulong said. All right. Lu Ming nodded and turned to leave. I'll return to the Dragon's Sovereign Peak. At this moment, many people had already gathered at the Dragon's Sovereign Peak. Xian Yanqing, the dragon and the phoenix spirits were all there. However, many of them looked solemn. The ancestral dragon's words were like a stone that pressed down on their hearts. Lu Ming chatted with the crowd for a while before they dispersed and went to cultivate. No matter what kind of enemy he had to face, the most important thing was to improve himself. Lu Ming entered a secret room and sat cross-legged. He then moved his hand and the Great Desolation Spear appeared in his hand. one could see that the Great Desolation Spear was filled with holes. Its spirituality had been greatly reduced and it was already half destroyed. A divine artifact is indeed powerful, Lu Ming muttered. Previously, he had used the Great Desolation Spear to clash head-on with the non-human divine ancestor, and the Great Desolation Spear had been destroyed. After a few glances, Lu Ming put away the Great Desolation Spear and a combat sword appeared in his hand. 3-pound sunned gift. Chapter 2560 Otherworldly creatures descend after Lu Ming put away the Great Desolation Spear. He took out a combat sword. This combat sword was given to him by Ye, and it was a divine weapon. Back when he was fighting the divine ancestor of the non-human race, Lu Ming had just made a breakthrough and had not had the time to refine this divine weapon. Hence, he could only use the Great Desolation Spear to fight his enemies. Lu Ming was at a slight disadvantage at first when he used the Great Desolation Spear against the divine ancestor of the non-human race who had a divine weapon. He only suppressed his opponent when he activated the battle character formula that doubled his combat power. If Lu Ming refined this divine weapon, he would be able to fight the divine ancestor of the non-human race head-on even without activating the battle symbol art to double his combat power. Lu Ming planned to refine this divine weapon now. In this way, his abilities could be improved. With a single thought, the ruler's power enveloped the combat sword and began to refine it. And NBSP, the power of a god, could rule the world, and when it came to forging divine weapons, he could do it at will, and his speed was extremely fast. In just a few days, Lu Ming had refined the combat sword. Buzz! The combat sword hovered in front of Lu Ming. It vibrated slightly and emitted a mysterious light. Collect! With a single thought, Lu Ming's combat sword turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the SPABCE between his sick brows. This was also Lu Ming's fault. If it were any other celestial the Arch, it would be impossible for them to refine or control divine artifacts. A divine weapon was a special weapon for the martial god realm. However, there was no problem for Lu Ming to control it with the master's power. After refining the divine weapon, Lu Ming planned to start comprehending the path of domination and the battle character formula. He did not know when the experts from the Yuanluo Hall would arrive. Lu Ming had to make the best use of his time and increase his strength. With a single thought, a scroll in his sea of consciousness unfurled, revealing Jing Ye's portrait, and the rich power of a sovereign emanated from him. Lu Ming could sense the power of the way of the master at all times. Lu Ming began to focus on comprehending the way of the ruler. Time flew by and the days went by. Lu Ming's comprehension of the path of domination was rapidly improving. For the past few decades, Lu Ming had been trapped at the peak of the great emperor realm. He was blocked by the heavenly Tao and it was difficult for him to advance. But now, Lu Ming had broken through. With the help of Jing Yu's portrait, his understanding of the way of the ruler was improving at an extremely fast speed. Every day, he had quite a harvest. The strange thing was that the Yuanluo Palace remained silent. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had said. In the past 10 years, the Yuanluo Palace had not sent anyone in the past 10 years. Lu Ming Bad benefited greatly with the help of the Shocking Feathers painting scroll. His path of domination had improved greatly. Now, I can already break through to become a 2-star heavenly emperor. Let's do it. Lu Ming muttered and took out a large number of divine stones, rough stones, and stones of chaos. Originally, he had used up 90% of the divine stones that he had brought out from Netherworld Mountain when he broke through to the heavenly emperor realm. However, they had defeated the evil god tribe later on. Lu Ming had obtained a large number of divine stones, rough stones, chaos stones, and primordial chaos stones from the evil god tribe's powerhouses. Now, he could help Lu Ming break through. Refine. With a wave of his hand, Lu Ming's power enveloped the divine stones, chaos stones, and rough stones. The divine stones and chaos stones exploded upon contact, and energy surged wildly toward Lu Ming. All of them were absorbed and refined by Lu Ming, transforming into world energy and power of the master. Lu Ming launched an attack on the 2-star heavenly emperor. Half a month later, Lu Ming's aura skyrocketed. His cultivation level had become a 2-star celestial emperor, and his strength had increased by a large margin. I've broken through. Lu Ming revealed a look of joy. with a breakthrough in his cultivation and an increase in his combat strength. Lu Ming's confidence grew. However, the amount of resources consumed was too terrifying. Lu Ming's resources were almost depleted. If he were to continue breaking through in the future, he didn't even know what to use to break through. Let's not care about that for now. Lu Ming shook his head and cultivated for a few days. When his realm had stabilized, Lu Ming began to study the battle character formula. In the past 10 years, Lu Ming had not stopped his comprehension of the battle formula. Li's understanding of the battle formula was getting deeper and deeper. Now, on average, he could trigger the double combat power once every 5 times. This was undoubtedly very advantageous in a great battle. Lu Ming, come quickly. At this moment, a voice rang in Lu Ming's ears. It was Zulong's voice. It sounded urgent. Are the experts of the Yuanluo Palace coming? The first thing that came to Lu Ming's mind was the Yuanluo Palace. I'll look a step forward and the SPABCE cracked. Lu Ming disappeared and reappeared at the original lair of Zulong in the next moment. The ancestral dragon was looking at the heaven suppression scowl with a serious face. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the heaven suppressing seal was shaking violently. The crack that the divine ancestor had created was expanding as if something was going to charge in. The two of them were on full alert, ready to attack at any time. Boom, boom, boom. The crack trembled more and more violently. Finally, with a sudden roar, a huge bead rushed in from the crack. Attack! Lu Ming and the ancestral dragon were about to attack first to destroy the other party. However, just as the two of them were about to make a move, the round ball exploded, and terrifying energy spread in all directions. Not good. The two's expressions changed. That energy was too terrifying. The two of them quickly retreated to avoid this energy. In the area where the ball exploded, the SPACE was completely torn apart, and cracks appeared in the SPACE within a radius of 10 million miles, covering the sky like a spider web. Buzz! And NBSP whoosh! In the chaotic SPABCE, Lu Ming saw a few streams of light flying in all directions from the area where the bead had exploded. They disappeared in the blink of an eye. Living beings. Lu Ming could see clearly that the streams of light were all living creatures that flew to various parts of the heaven realm. Some even flew into the dark void. For a moment, Lu Ming could not determine how many living creatures there were. It was obvious that a terrifying creature from the outside world had entered and was riding on that bead. After a short while, the chaotic SPABCE recovered. Zulong's expression was very ugly. No wonder no one has entered the Yuanluo Palace for the past 10 years. It's to create those round beads to resist the power of the heaven-suppressing scowl. Zulong said with a dark face. So, the person who came in wasn't injured? Lu Ming asked. No, he's injured. The heaven-suppressing seal is very effective against low-leveled ethereal god realm cultivators. We just don't know how many powerful cultivators they have. Zulong said with a serious face. In the northern region of the Taiqing heavenly region, a stream of light flew over and crashed into a mountain range. Boom! Boom! The mountain range trembled as the peaks crumbled and exploded. What's going on? The godly beasts and humans who were cultivating in the surroundings were shocked and stood around to watch. All of a sudden, a beam of blood-red light emanated from the mountain range in front of them. Then, a terrifying suction force erupted. Not good, quickly retreat. The humans and godly beasts who were watching changed their expressions and wanted to retreat. However, they realized that they couldn't retreat at all. The suction force was too terrifying. Their bodies were sucked in by it. After a few screams, there was no more sound. In 23. Chapter 2561 City Ma. Saker. After devouring those godly beasts and humans, a blood-red light shone brightly. Then with a flash, a strange living being appeared in the sky. This creature was in the form of a human, but it had long blood-red hair and sharp fangs in its mouth. On its back, there was a pair of blood-red wings. It looked like a human-shaped bat. Human, the flesh and blood of divine beasts are too delicious, too delicious. The human-shaped bat creature licked its lips, revealing an intoxicated expression as well as a deep desire for blood. His spiritual sense spread out and instantly covered the entire northern region of the Tai Ching heavenly region. Ha ha ha, so many humans and godly beasts. This farm is not bad. I'll enjoy it first. The human-shaped bat sneered. He took a step forward, and in the next moment, he appeared in the sky above a huge city. This giant city was a famous giant city in the northern region of the Tai Ching heavenly region. The total number of humans and godly beasts in this giant city was more than 100 million, and there were several major forces living there. Ha ha ha, become my food and replenish my energy. The humanoid bat laughed sinisterly as his body rapidly grew to 100,000 feet tall, and his terrifying aura spread in all directions. My God, what is that? What a terrifying aura! The beings in the city were all stunned when they discovered the human-shaped bat. The aura of the bat was terrifying. Divine might. That's divine might. He's a god. In the huge city, a heavenly emperor cried out in horror, God? Everyone was shocked. Now, in the heaven realm, the primordial realm, and the evil god realm, apart from Zulong and Lu Ming, were there any other gods? Not good, go, quickly go. Suddenly, someone shouted and rushed out of the city. They thought of what the ancestral dragon had said, that the creatures of the universe would attack the heaven realm. But now, a god had appeared out of thin air. It must have come from beyond the heavens. You want to leave? Where can you go in front of me? The human-shaped bat laughed sinisterly. He grabbed forward with his huge hand, covering the sky and covering the earth. There were thousands of humans and divine beasts that had escaped. He grabbed them and stuffed them into his bloody mouth, chewing them. Blood flowed out of the bat's fangs. Delicious. It's really delicious. Ha ha ha. The human-shaped bat laughed. When he came in from the primeval universe, even with the protection of the bead, he was still injured. Now, he could devour these human godly beasts to heal his injuries. In the blink of an eye, thousands of people were swallowed, including a heavenly emperor expert. The people in the giant city panicked and began to flee. Ha ha ha, become my delicacy. The benefits of this job are too good. The human-shaped bat laughed loudly. It opened its bloody mouth and swallowed. A terrifying attractive force corrupted, and countless people in the giant city involuntarily flew towards the human-shaped bat's mouth. Ah, help. No, no. Countless humans and godly beasts cried out in fear. Whether it was the true emperors, great emperors, or heavenly emperors, none of them had the power to fight back. They were all swallowed by the humanoid bat and became its food. In one gulp, he had swallowed hundreds of thousands of living beings. Furthermore, there was an endless stream of living beings that were being devoured by him. More than half of the 100 million living beings in the city had been devoured in the blink of an eye. Ha ha ha, this small kiliacosm has so little pressure. It's too fragile. I can destroy the world here. The human-shaped bat laughed madly and continued to devour. At the same time, in the southern part of the Tai Ching heavenly region, there was also a figure that was as tall as the sky, walking in the air. This figure was also in the form of an adult, but his entire body was covered in a black robe. He held a large flag in his hand, and on the large flag, there were countless black shadows scurrying about. These black shadows were all souls, like evil ghosts. Baz! This figure also came to the sky above a giant city. Without looking at it, he waved the flag and it became infinitely huge, covering the entire giant city. Not long after, the flag was lifted up, and all the living beings in the giant city died. Their souls were sucked into the flag. Then, he continued to walk to the next big city. Saker. Endless Ma. Saker. Wherever these two living beings went, there would be endless slaughter. They treated humans and godly beasts as supplements and enjoyed them to their heart's content. In the lair of Zulong, Lu Ming and the ancestral dragon spread out their spiritual senses and immediately discovered this scene. Damn it. And NBSP Zulong's face was vicious and he roared in rage. Lu Ming's expression was extremely cold. Both of them are at first level void god level. Lu Ming, one for each of us. Zulong said to Lu Ming. All right. Lu Ming nodded. He took a step forward and headed north of the Tai Ching heavenly region. The ancestral dragon, on the other hand, charged towards the south of the Tai Ching Heavenly Region. In the north of the Tai Ching Heavenly Region, the human-shaped bat had already devoured all the living beings in the giant city. The vast city, which was originally extremely prosperous, was now completely empty. Not even a dog or a chick could be seen. Cool, this is too cool. The human-shaped bat burped, and the greed and malevolence in his eyes became even more intense. He set his eyes on the next giant city, and his huge body was about to rush there. However, at this moment, the void front of them split open, and a figure stepped out. This figure was naturally Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming's expression was extremely cold, and his body exuded an extremely strong killing intent. These existences from the Yuanluo Palace had really treated them as medicinal ingredients, and could harvest and kill them at will. An ant at the transformation void martial stage? The humanoid bat was slightly stunned when it saw Lu Ming. "I'll let you die a horrible death," Lu Ming said coldly and stepped forward. "What? You want me to die miserably? Ha ha ha, with just you, a transformation void martial stage martial artist?" The human-shaped bat began to laugh wildly. He called the Heavenly Emperor realm exactly the same as in the Yellow Springs world. Boom! Suddenly the humanoid bat moved. It stretched out a large hand and grabbed at Lu Ming. In his opinion, Lu Ming, a void transformation stage ant, was too arrogant. He wanted to swallow Lu Ming in one bite. Kill! Lu Ming could not be bothered to waste his breath on the other party. The divine weapon sword appeared in his hand and burst out with the way of the Dominator, slashing out. The sword light burst out, and a sword mark that was millions of miles long appeared in the sky. Piff! The palm of the human-shaped bat was directly split in half. Ah! The human-shaped bat screamed miserably as it retracted its arm. How is that possible? You've mastered the Tao of a ruler. How could someone in a small kiliacosm master the Tao of a ruler? The human-shaped bat cried out in disbelief. Kill! Lu Ming's killing intent was as cold as a knife. He held his combat sword and charged at his opponent. 23. Chapter 2562. Killing another god. Lu Ming had comprehended the battle symbol art. The battle symbol art was the source of all battles. After comprehending the battle symbol art, regardless of the technique, divine power or power, it would be enhanced. Moreover, no matter what weapon he used, he had to be able to use it with his heart and could unleash its power to the greatest extent. Therefore, there was no difference between Lu Ming using a sword and a spear. It seems like that trash from the three-eyed race died in your hands. The human-shaped bat roared angrily. It took out a divine weapon that looked like a pair of scissors and charged at Lu Ming. Boom! The two of them exchanged a direct blow, and the human-shaped bat creature's body trembled violently as it retreated. How is that possible? Your battle strength. The human-shaped bat was extremely shocked. Lu Ming was only at the transformation void martial stage. How could his combat strength be so strong? Could it be that existences who had mastered the Tao of rulers were this powerful? The human-shaped bat found it hard to calm down. Even in the primeval universe, those who mastered the Tao of rulers were rare geniuses. He had only heard of them and had never seen them before. He had never imagined that they would be so terrifying that even he was at a disadvantage. Buzz! Lu Ming repelled the humanoid bat with one move and continued to attack the other party. The two of them exchanged a few more blows. The humanoid bat was no match for him at all, and was sent flying. His arm exploded, and blood spurted out of his mouth. Lu Ming's abilities had increased by a large margin compared to when he had fought the divine ancestor of the non-human race. Now, he had refined a divine weapon and his cultivation had broken through to the 2-star Heavenly Emperor level. The human-shaped bat was only at the same level as the non-human divine ancestor. Furthermore, he had been injured by the Heaven Suppression Seal when he had entered the heavenly realm. Naturally, he was not Lu Ming's match. No, this person is too terrifying. I'll find the others first and then kill this person. The human-shaped bat turned small and flapped its wings in an attempt to escape. However, Lu Ming would not let it escape. He moved and slashed his sword madly. Beams of terrifying sword light enveloped the bat-like creature. Pin! The humanoid bat was slashed by Lu Ming's sword and was almost cut in half. He spat out a large mouthful of blood and flew out. He was severely injured. "Brat, you dare to kill me? You're only from a small kiliacosm, and you dare to kill me? I'm from the Yuanluo Palace. If you kill me, the Yuanluo Palace will burn your bones and scatter your ashes." The human-shaped bat started to roar and threaten Lu Ming. Laughable. Lu Ming was unmoved. This human-shaped bat had slaughtered hundreds of millions of living beings in the heaven realm as soon as he entered. No matter what, he had to kill this person. Lu Ming became one with the sword and turned into a terrifying sword light, slashing across. PM. This time, the human-shaped bat creature was really cut in half. The human-shaped bat roared in fear and tried to escape. He had never thought that he would be in danger of dying the moment he entered. Originally, he thought that it was just a small kiliacosm, and he could enter it to indulge himself. He never thought that he would end up like this. Kill! Lu Ming let out a long howl and his combat sword slashed down once again. This time, the humanoid bat could no longer avoid it. It was cut in half by Lu Ming's sword, and its soul was destroyed. It was completely dead. This time, it was much easier for Lu Ming to kill a first-level Void God realm. However, Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. The humanoid bat was obviously the weakest among the Void God realm experts. It was only at the first level of the Void God realm. Moreover, when the other party entered, he was injured. That was why he was casually killed by Lu Ming. If the other party was not injured, it would not be so casual. What would happen if he encountered a second or even third-level Void God realm? Lu Ming waved his hand and kept the humanoid bat storage ring. Before he could open it to check, Lu Ming's expression changed. I'll realize that a powerful being was charging toward the heaven-suppressing seal. Don't even think about it. Lu Ming was shocked and furious. He did not know how many living beings had come in from the outside. The other party was obviously taking the opportunity to attack the heaven-suppressing scowl and wanted to tear apart completely. Lu Ming rushed towards the heaven-suppressing seal at top speed. But he was still a step too slow. Boom! A burly man with a single horn on his head struck the heaven suppression seal, causing the crack to grow even bigger. Die! Lu Ming rushed over and slashed with his sword. The one-horned man was shocked. He turned around and threw a punch at Lu Ming, which collided with the combat sword. The one-horned man's body trembled violently, and he was pushed back tens of thousands of miles. This horned man was also at the first level of the Void God realm. The Tao of a sovereign. The one-horned man's eyes were filled with deep shock. Kill! Lu Ming let out a long hiss. Without a word of nonsense, he charged towards the one-horned man. The one-horned man also burst out with all his strength and charged at Lu Ming. Sila! At this moment, ASP not far away cracked open and a pitch-black giant python appeared. It was as huge as a mountain range and it charged toward Lu Ming. He was another first-level Void God realm expert. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly. His combat sword shook and split into two sword lights, slashing at the one-horned man and the giant python. With two terrifying explosions, the void shattered. The horned man and the giant python were both sent flying by Lu Ming. Lu Ming was courageous and invincible. He continued to charge at his opponent. At the same time, he constantly activated the battle symbol art, wanting to trigger the double combat power. Boom! The void shattered, and a burly figure appeared in the void. He was holding a saber and slashed over. The saber light was shocking and extremely terrifying. Lu Ming blocked the attack with his sword, causing a terrifying explosion. The SPABCE within a radius of 10 million miles was completely destroyed. The terrifying power landed on the ground, causing the earth to constantly explode, and a 10-million-mile-long gully was forcibly formed. Lava erupted from the depths of the ground, making it look like the end of the world. It could destroy the heavens and earth. It was truly destructive. The entire Taijing heavenly region was shaken. At this moment, anyone in the heaven realm who had some cultivation could feel that a terrifying war had broken out. This was because the pressure of the gods filled the entire heaven realm, and everyone felt that a great disaster was imminent. Have the people outside come in? At the Dragon Emperor Peak, Xueqi stood in the air with deep worry in his eyes. He then stepped forward and headed in the direction of the heaven-suppressing seal. Is it an expert from the primal universe? Have the experts from the primeval universe arrived? Lu Ming, senior ancestral dragon, are you fighting with the outsiders? At this moment, everyone was discussing and guessing. A kind of fear was spreading in everyone's heart. However, they were helpless and could only wait. They couldn't partake. IP8 in the battle between gods. They could only wait for the result. Let's go and take a look. Some of the demigods all headed towards the heaven-suppressing seal. After all, the battle was the most intense there. In the southern part of the Tai Ching heavenly region, they also felt the fluctuations, but they were not as intense. However, these demigods didn't dare to get too close. They could only watch from distance. 23. Chapter 2563 Solo Battle against the arithmetic god Lu Ming. Tens of millions of miles away from the heaven-suppressing seal, Xueqi's figure appeared and watched from afar. Lu Ming, you have to hold on. In another direction, Dandan's figure also appeared, her face solemn. Qing Tsong, the Titan longhorn beetle, the Nine Lives devilish silkworm, venerable sovereign rebellion, and the others also appeared. They looked at the destructive scene in front of them and were deeply shocked. A battle between gods was too terrifying. They couldn't get involved at all. They would probably be ground into dust by the aftermath. Lu Ming. All the demigods muttered as they looked forward. At that moment, Lu Ming was surrounded by three figures. One of them was the horned man, while the other was the giant python. It was as large as a mountain, and its eyes were cold as it stared at Lu Ming. However, what made Lu Ming most concerned was the third one. It was a bald burly man, but his bald head was covered with black runes, which looked extremely strange. He was holding a saber that was bigger than a man. The last strike had been made by this man. Second level of the Void God realm. Lu Ming muttered in his heart. After receiving the other party's attack, Lu Ming could tell that the bald man's strength was far above that of the horned man and the giant python. It was very likely that he was a second-level Void God-level existence. The way of a ruler. I didn't expect that someone in a small world could master the way of a ruler. If we use it to refine great medicine, young master will be very happy. The bald man licked his lips. His eyes were extremely cold. He suddenly stepped forward and slashed his saber, which was taller than a man, at Lu Ming. Lu Ming also waved his sword and the two of them clashed again. Clang! A terrifying explosion was heard. The saber radiance and sword chi were wanton. Lu Ming's body trembled and he retreated continuously. The second-level Void God realm is indeed powerful. Senior Ancestral Dragon is right. Lu Ming had a thought in his mind. When he was a one-star Heavenly Emperor, he was able to fight against a first-level Void God realm expert. However, now that he had broken through to the two-star Heavenly Emperor realm, he was unable to fight against a second-level Void God realm expert. That was because the difference between breaking through one level in the Heavenly Emperor realm was not as big as breaking through one level in the Void God realm. Unless he became a 3-star Heavenly Emperor, he wouldn't be able to fight against a second-level Void God realm expert. Bang! 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 After the bald man pushed Lu Ming back, he kept stepping forward. His divine power burst out and his saber kept slashing forward. Lu Ming used all his strength. His entire body was enveloped by the power of the ruler. His combat sword trembled and he slashed out beams of sword light to fight against his opponent. At the same time, Lu Ming kept casting the battle formula, hoping to trigger the double combat strength. This time, Lu Ming was more unlucky. He had already triggered it more than 10 times, but he still did not trigger the double combat strength. Clang! Clang! After more than a dozen exchanges, Lu Ming was sent flying back more than 100,000 miles. Blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. Heaven-suppressing seal. Watch me tear it apart. The bald burly man laughed heartily as a shocking saber light slashed towards the heaven-suppressing seal. Boom! At this critical moment, Lu Ming finally triggered the double combat strength and his combat strength skyrocketed. Buzz! Lu Ming turned into a ray of light and arrived in front of the bald man in an instant. He swung his sword. The power of this sword was much stronger than the previous one. The bald man's expression changed and he raised his saber to block it. Thump! The bald burly man was sent flying by Lu Ming's sword. Kill! Lu Ming let out a long hiss and increased his speed to the maximum as he charged forward. However, he did not charge at the bald man, but at the one-horned man. What? The one-horned burly man was shocked. He did not expect Lu Ming to suddenly explode and send the bald burly man flying with one move. Initially, he thought that the bald burly man would be able to crush and kill Lu Ming. Instinctively, he raised the weapon in his hand to block it. However, when his weapon collided with Lu Ming's combat sword, he felt an irresistible force surging towards him. Clang! The weapon in the one-horned man's hand flew out, and his arm was directly blown apart. He screamed and spurted out blood as his body flew far away. How could Lu Ming miss this opportunity? Buzz! Lu Ming dashed out and slashed out a second time. Save! The one-horned burly man shouted in horror. However, he had only managed to utter one word before he was split into two by Lu Ming's sword. The one-horned man had fallen. Fast, it was extremely fast. From the moment Lu Ming made his move to the moment he killed the one-horned burly man, only an instant had passed. After Lu Ming killed the one-horned man, he did not stop at all and charged at the giant python. Retreat! The bald burly man was the first to react. He roared and charged at Lu Ming with a saber in his hand. Buzz! Buzz! The bald burly man slashed more than 100 times in a row. Terrifying beams of light crushed the void and slashed toward Lu Ming. Buzz! Lu Ming slashed horizontally, breaking through 100 saber beams in a row. However, the giant python finally seized the opportunity and retreated at top speed. At the same time, its body shrank, turning into a huge snake that was a few meters long. Its eyes were filled with fear. This person is evil. Let's join forces to deal with him. The bald burly man roared and charged at Lu Ming. At the same time, the giant python made its move. It opened its mouth and spat out a thin black sword that was like a small snake. It flew towards Lu Ming at a strange angle and at an astonishing speed. However, Lu Ming did not care about the python's attack. He charged straight at the other party. Lu Ming's purpose was very simple. He would eliminate the weak ones first and then deal with the strong ones. Die! The python's eyes were cold. It retreated and controlled the snake-shaped sword to stab Lu Ming. Buzz! The snake-shaped thin sword was approaching Lu Ming's glabella. However, just as it was about to hit Lu Ming's glabella, his eyes glowed with a purple-gold light. My lord! With a single thought, Lu Ming's dominator's power erupted and acted on the snake-shaped sword. Buzz! The direction of the snake-shaped thin sword deviated and flew past Lu Ming's ear. However, Lu Ming's figure did not stop and he continued to charge at the python. Not good. The giant python's expression changed drastically, and it retreated frantically. The bald man shouted angrily and chased after him. Hoo! At this moment, a terrifying suction force came from above Lu Ming's head and acted on his body, causing him to suddenly stop. Brat, die! A loud roar came from the sky, and a huge object suddenly appeared. This person's entire body was blood red. He had a wide mouth and sharp fangs. He had a pair of blood-colored wings. He looked extremely similar to the human-shaped bat that Lu Ming had killed earlier. It was obvious that they were from the same race. However, this humanoid bat creature's cultivation was obviously stronger, no weaker than the bald man's. Its two wings were like a storm, slashing at Lu Ming. Another second-level void god realm existence. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed again. How many experts had entered the Yuanluo Palace? This was what Lu Ming was most uncertain about. But now they could only fight. The combat sword in his hand trembled and shot out beams of sword light to fight against the blood-colored bat above his head. At the same time, Lu Ming soared into the sky, becoming one with the sword. Chapter 2564 Frightening enemy. Lu Ming used all his strength and became one with his sword. Al turned into a dazzling sword light and attacked the humanoid bat. Blood splattered everywhere. One of the bat-shaped creature's wings was almost cut off. He screamed and quickly retreated. Before Lu Ming activated the double combat strength formula, His combat strength was weaker than a second-level Void God Realm powerhouse. However, after activating the double combat strength formula, his analytics had completely surpassed a second-level Void God Realm powerhouse. Kill! Lu Ming simply stared at the humanoid bat and kept slashing at it. However, the bald man had also arrived. He joined forces with the humanoid bat to fight Lu Ming. As for the giant python, it was hiding in the distance, controlling the snake-shaped thin sword from afar to attack Lu Ming. Boom! Boom! The two sides continued fight and exchanged dozens of moves. Even though Lu Ming was fighting Ankh against 3, he still had the upper hand. Puchi! One of the bat-like creature's wings was completely chopped off by Lu Ming. Blood splattered in all directions and drowned the entire mountain. Ah, brat! Ant, I'm going to break your head. The human-shaped bat roared in anger. But what welcomed it was Lu Ming's sword gleam. The sword light flashed, and one of the bat-like creature's wings was almost cut off. It was so scared that it retreated. Clang! Lu Ming turned around and swung his sword. His sword collided with the bald man's and the bald man was sent flying. Damn it! How is this kid so strong? The bald man's face was gloomy as he retreated to the python's side. As for the human-shaped bat, he hurriedly came to the bald man and the other's side. The three of them gathered together, not daring to separate. What do we do? This brat is too strong. We can't kill him, nor can we tear the heaven-suppressing seal. The giant python said. Where's Xueqi? Why isn't he here yet? Once he's here, we can deal with this kid. The human-shaped bat said. Humph. You're really useless. You can't even deal with a native from a small kiliacosm. Suddenly, a cold and arrogant voice sounded. The void trembled and a figure appeared out of thin air. This figure looked similar to a human. He had a well-proportioned body, but his eyes were cold and filled with a faint arrogance. Xueqi. Seeing this person, the bald man, the human-shaped bat, and the giant python were all overjoyed. Xueqi. This person has mastered the path of a ruler. It's best not to kill him. Capture him alive and offer him to young master. Young master will definitely be overjoyed. The bald man said. Understood. Xueqi nodded. He looked at Lu Ming and said indifferently, Brat, surrender without resistance and you can suffer less physical pain. If you want to take me down, then let's see if you have the ability. Lu Ming said coldly. The purple gold light on his body grew thicker and thicker. However, his heart was heavy because he couldn't see through this person called Xueqi at all. You're overestimating yourself. Xueqi's cold voice was heard. He then took a step forward and in an instant, he was close to Lu Ming and threw a punch. Boom! This punch contained a terrifying power. The terrifying power compressed the void and crushed toward Lu Ming with an earth-shattering force. There was no way to avoid it, so he could only take it head-on. Lu Ming growled and gathered all his energy, slashing with all his might. Boom! Lu Ming felt as if he had slashed at an iron wall. Endless power surged and the combat sword vibrated continuously, almost flying away. Lu Ming was sent flying by the punch. His body was like a meteorite, crashing to the ground. The ground shook violently, and a huge pit with a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles appeared. Everything was turned into ashes, and the surrounding tens of millions of miles were covered with cracks. Fortunately, all living beings within 100 million miles of the heaven-suppressing scale had been evacuated. Otherwise, countless living beings would have died. Lu Ming, in the distance, Xian Yanking's face turned pale with fear. His eyes were filled with worry. Boom! However, in the next moment, a purple gold light burst out of the huge pit. It was Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming felt as if his entire body was about to split apart. Waves of excruciating pain radiated from his body. Even though he had circulated the indestructible ancient scroll, it was of no use. His recovery was very slow. What terrifying strength! Lu Ming was shocked. This Xueqi was definitely a terrifying existence. His strength was far above second-level Void God Realm. The ancestral dragon said that the small kiliacosm would be in great danger if anyone above the fourth level of the Void God Realm entered. Hence, this person was most likely at the third level of the Void God Realm. Not bad, not bad. You can still struggle after taking one of my moves. Your talent is not bad even in the primeval universe. Unfortunately, your fate is already decided. Xueqi's eyes became even colder, and there was even a trace of jealousy. Boom! An extremely terrifying aura burst out from Xueqi's body. Boom! 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 Kacha! In the sky, AMUF fled roar was heard. An extremely terrifying scene appeared. With Xueqi as the center, the void kept exploding, and ferocious spatial cracks appeared. It was as if the entire world was going to collapse. The speed ASCE in this small world is really weak. However, it's just enough for me to use. Kill. Xueqi's expression turned ferocious. He suddenly rushed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming's pupils contracted sharply. He was highly focused and his energy, qi, and spirit were adjusted to their peak. Buzz! Lu Ming's figure retreated rapidly. You can't retreat. Xueqi's cold voice was heard. His speed was even faster and more shocking. He approached Lu Ming at an extreme speed and threw a punch. Boom! 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 The void within a radius of millions of miles exploded instantly, forming a terrifying spatial storm that engulfed Lu Ming. Terrifying. Xueqi's power was too terrifying. Every move he made had the power to destroy the world. If he were to use all his strength to bombard the ground, he would definitely blow up the entire Tai-Ching heavenly region. No wonder the ancestral dragon said that if an existence that was too strong entered the small kiliacosm, it would collapse. The stability of a small kiliacosm couldn't be compared to the primal universe. Faced with Xueqi's attack, Lu Ming could not avoid it. Break, break, break. Lu Ming roared and slashed his combat sword continuously. However, Xueqi's strength was too strong. Lu Ming felt the combat sword shake violently. His body was sent flying again and he crashed into the ground, causing the ground to crack continuously. Lu Ming spat out a mouthful of blood. He was severely injured. He immediately took out a life fruit and swallowed it. After swallowing the life fruit, his injuries healed rapidly. I even have this kind of godly medicine. However, it's useless. Xueqi stepped forward and punched out with both fists. Vroom! 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 Waves of terrifying fist force crushed out. Lu Ming could not resist at all. He was hit continuously and crashed to the ground. This time, Lu Ming's body almost exploded. His entire body was covered in cracks and he no longer looked human. Even with the life fruit, was difficult for him to recover. 23. Chapter 2565 Mobilizing World Power. Lu Ming. In the distance, Xian Yanking's eyes turned red as she witnessed this scene. She gritted her teeth and her eyes revealed a look of determination. Her body was covered in a black light. Her hands quickly formed a strange seal, and the aura of her body rose rapidly. Xueqi, the bald man, and the others looked at Xian Yanqing in shock. Interesting. This small kiliacosm is really interesting. Xueqi muttered, his eyes burning with excitement. At this moment, the SPABCE beside Xian Yonging flashed and Xian Yanjuan appeared. Xian Yanqing, what are you doing? You're crazy. If you do this, your foundation will be completely destroyed, and you'll only become a cripple in the future. Xian Yanjuan scolded. I'm not crazy. I must save Lu Ming. I can't watch him die. Xian Yanking's eyes were firm. Even if you cast that secret skill with all your might, you're no match for them. Also, are you not going to do that thing for Lu Ming? Zik Nianjuan scolded. That's the Tang family's business. I'm not a member of the Tang family. My surname's Xie. My name is Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing said. You. Xian Yanjuan was speechless. Indeed, Xian Yonging's memories of this life had devoured the memories of her previous life. Strictly speaking, she was no longer a member of the Tang family. Xian Yanking's aura was getting stronger and stronger, as if he was about to reach the martial god realm. This is Dandan Venerable Sovereign Rebellion, the T-Ib Tan Bull, and the others all looked could it be that I'm going to die in battle here today? Xian Yonging in shock. On the ground, Lu Ming lay in a deep pit that was tens of thousands of miles deep. Many thoughts ran through his mind. Xueqi was too strong. He was not someone he could fight against at all. He had already done his best. The battle symbol art had doubled his combat strength. His combat strength had reached its peak and could suppress a second-level void god realm existence. However, he was still not Xueqi's match. It was completely one-sided. What to do? Lu Ming was indignant. He did not want to give up just like that. If he gave up, the heaven-suppressing sigil would be opened and the powerhouses from the Yuan Luo Palace would enter. The heaven realm's living beings would most likely be doomed. His parents, Xianyan Jing, his son, granddaughter, and friends would all be in danger. He had to protect them. Master the world. If I can master the power of this world, I can deal with Xueqi. That's right. The heavenly Tao is suppressing me because it's afraid that I'll dominate it. Now, I've already broken through. In an instant, many thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Since the heavenly Tao was afraid of him breaking through, now that he had broken through, could he dominate the power of this world? Instantly, Lu Ming's spiritual consciousness spread out limitlessly. Ruler. Give me the ruler. I am the ruler of this world. Lu Ming roared in his heart, his body emitting a bright purple-gold light. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the entire world was shaking. Endless energy suddenly surged toward Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming seemed to feel that the entire heaven realm, even the primordial realm and the evil god realm were all under his control. He could use the energy of the entire world. This is... Xueqi's pupils contracted sharply, and his eyes were filled with shock. Damn, kill. Die. Xueqi roared. He used all his strength and swung his fists continuously, unleashing terrifying attacks. Terrifying fist forces were blasted toward Lu Ming. However, a wave energy formed around Lu Ming's body and blocked Xueqi's punches. How could this be? Quick, let's attack together and interrupt him. Xueqi could no longer keep his calm and shouted, "Attack!" The bald burly man and the other two attacked at the same time. All kinds of attacks were constantly bombarding Lu Ming. However, they were blocked by the energy around Lu Ming's body. At this moment, Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and the others were also shocked. Xian Yanqing was about to cast a secret skill to fight alongside Lu Ming at all costs. At that moment, the secret skill stopped and her aura fell again. Is this the power of the entire world? It's too terrifying. At this moment, Lu Ming was in a wonderful state. He seemed to be able to mobilize the energy of the entire world. Then kill. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. He swung the combat sword in his hand. This sword had mobilized the power of the entire world. Bang! A sword light slashed out, and the attacks of Xueqi and the other three were directly shattered. The sword light did not stop and continued to slash toward the four of them. Not good. Xueqi and the other three's expressions changed drastically as they retreated frantically. However, the sword light was faster. Blood splattered everywhere. The bald man, the human-shaped bat, and the giant python suddenly stopped. Their eyes were filled with disbelief and horror. Then, their bodies exploded and turned into ashes. Xueqi was the only one who was forced to retreat. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and a long sword mark appeared on his chest, almost cutting him in half. Mobilizing the power of the entire small kiliacosm. Damn. This is equivalent to the power of a fourth-level void god realm. Xueqi roared in fear. His figure retreated rapidly, tearing SPAOC apart as he tried to escape. If you want to leave, I am the master of this world. Lu Ming's cold voice was heard. A huge hand suddenly appeared behind Xueqi. It was extremely huge and pressed down on Xueqi. Bang! Xueqi was sent flying like an eagle and crashed heavily into the ground, causing the surrounding land to explode. Xueqi spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body almost exploded. The scene had completely reversed. Damn. Xueqi roared in his heart. He glanced at Xian Yanqing and the others in the distance. His eyes flashed with ferocity. He rushed out and was about to charge Xian Yanqing and the others. All wanted to take them down and threaten Lu Ming. However, the entire world was under Lu Ming's control. How could he let him have his way? As soon as Su Tu moved, a spear light appeared in front of him. It pierced through Su Tu's body and nailed him to the ground. Su Tu struggled with all his might. However, Lu Ming gathered the power of heaven and earth and suppressed his body, making it difficult for him to move. Ah, you're looking for death. Do you think you can live after killing me? When the true experts of the Yuan Luo Palace make their move, your small world will be annihilated. Su Tu roared. Blowing. Lu Ming flew above Su Tu and slashed his combat sword down. Pit. Su Tu was killed on the spot. Up until now, Lu Ming had killed a number of gods in front of the heaven-suppressing seal. Including the first one, there were a total of 6 gods. Sila. At this moment, the SPABCE nearby cracked open and the ancestral dragon appeared. At this moment, the ancestral dragon was covered in blood and had many injuries, but fortunately, he was fine. After an intense battle, the ancestral dragon had also successfully killed his opponent. The ancestral dragon's strength was originally similar to the other party's, but the other party was attacked by the heaven-suppressing seal after coming in. He was more or less injured and his strength was weakened. In the end, he was killed by the ancestral dragon. 23. Chapter 2566 Taking the Initiative, Senior Ancestral Dragon. Please wait a moment. I'll look around and see if there are any experts from the Yuan Luo Palace, Lu Ming said to the ancestral dragon and closed his eyes. At this moment, Lu Ming dominated this world. Therefore, he could sense it anywhere in the heaven realm, and the evil god realm. He could even sense it in the dark void. There's indeed one more person. In a dark SPABCE, Lu Ming sensed a powerful existence. It should be at second-level void god level and was sitting cross-legged in the void to recuperate. Suddenly, this person opened his eyes, revealed a trace of shock, and turned to run. Can you run away? Lu Ming sneered. He gathered the energy of the entire world, formed a combat sword, and slashed down. Ah! The man let out a blood-curdling screech as he was killed. A second-level void god realm existence could not even withstand one move from Lu Ming. Lu Ming's current state was too powerful. He could dominate the entire world and mobilize the energy of the entire world. He was comparable to a fourth-level virtual god-level powerhouse. Killing a second-level virtual god-level powerhouse would be a piece of cake. Following that, Lu Ming continued to look around. However, he did not find any traces of other experts. All the experts from the Yuan Luo Palace who had entered this place had been killed. At this moment, the aura on Lu Ming's body finally calmed down and returned to normal. His injuries had also completely recovered. La Ming, did you just mobilize the energy of the entire heaven and earth? Zulong looked at Lu Ming in shock. Lu Ming nodded. He then waved his hand and kept the storage rings left behind by the experts he had killed. Lu Ming, are you all right? At this moment, Xian Yanqing flew over with a face full of concern. Then, Dandan and the others also flew over. I'm fine, don't worry. Lu Ming smiled. After everyone chatted for a while, the Tan Longhorn Beetle and the others also left. Not long after, the news of Lu Ming killing the gods in succession spread. After countless people found out, they were shocked beyond words. Lu Ming had killed many gods by himself. That was a god. It was like a legend. Lu Ming's prestige in the hearts of everyone in the heaven realm had reached the peak. Even Serpa Sing the ancestor dragon by a large margin. In their opinion, Lu Ming was simply a god among gods. However, Lu Ming and Zulong's faces were grave. In the area of the heaven-suppressing seal, the ancestral dragon and La Ming were discussing something. This can't go on. If the Yuan Luo Palace knows that they have failed, they will definitely send out stronger existences. Zulong frowned. Senior, what should we do now? Lu Ming asked. A small kiliocosm is a huge fortune to the Yuan Luo Palace. Under normal circumstances, they would not be willing to destroy it, but there is no guarantee that they would not do so in a fit of anger. If they send out existences above the 4th level of the Void God realm, they can completely destroy the Heaven realm, the Yuan realm, and the Evil God realm. Zulong frowned and thought. After a while he said, "There's only one way to survive." "Senior, please speak." Lu Ming said. "That is to take the initiative to attack." Now, the people from the Yuan Luo Palace don't know that the people they sent in have been completely annihilated. They must be waiting for good news. Therefore, the forces outside the heaven-suppressing scowl shouldn't be too strong. Now, if we take the initiative to attack, tear the heaven-suppressing scowl, and rush out, we might have a chance of success. Zulong said. "Charge out." Lu Ming muttered. He pondered for a moment and said, "All right, then we'll move out." Lu Ming was a decisive person. If he continued to stay here, he could only sit and wait for his death. He would not stand a chance. However, if he rushed out, there was still a chance of survival. However, there's an important problem when you rush out. It's the problem of your small world. Zulong said. The problem of the small world? Lu Ming was puzzled. If they were to charge out, they would definitely take most of the living beings into the small world and bring them out. The primeval universe is a truly ancient and perfect world. It's a real greater world. Such a world and a small world created through cultivation can't coexist with it. Therefore, once you enter the primeval universe, within a year, the small world will separate from your body and merge with the primeval universe, becoming a part of it. Zulong said. What? A small world can actually merge with the primeval universe? Lu Ming's expression changed. Wouldn't his cultivation level drop drastically? However, you don't have to worry about one thing. The primeval universe is fair. When your small world fuses with it, it will also give you an equal amount of energy. Therefore, your cultivation state will not decline. However, all the living beings you bring out will be exposed. Our traces will be exposed as well. So once we leave, we must find a safe place to settle everyone within a year. Zulong said. So that's how it is. Only a year? Lu Ming muttered. In other words, after they leave, they must be out of danger within a year. Otherwise, it might be even more dangerous. Lu Ming, you can decide on this matter. Zulong said. Let's do this. Lu Ming spoke with a determined look in his eyes. Rather than waiting for death, it was better to fight to the death. Zulong's eyes were filled with admiration. There weren't many people who could be so decisive. All right, since we've decided to charge out, we'll have T do it as soon as possible. Otherwise, the other party will react and gather more experts. Zulong said. Then, the two of them discussed and decided to split up. They were going to gather most of the living beings in the heaven realm. Fortunately, many of the heaven realm's humans cultivated the nomological system and had opened up small worlds that could accommodate a large number of living beings. Lu Ming first returned to the Dragon's sovereign peak and told everyone about his plan. Everyone agreed to it. Then they dispersed and spread the news. The entire heavenly realm began to move. Most of them were willing to risk their lives after hearing this plan, because staying here would only lead to death. Some of the people in the pocket dimension kept the people and divine beasts around them into their pocket dimension and rushed to the heaven-suppressing seal. In just 10 days, almost all the places in the heaven realm were emptied. Many ordinary people were also taken into the small worlds. Then, everyone gathered the heaven-suppressing seal. Then, Lu Ming kept everyone into his small world. In this way, most of the living creatures in the entire heaven realm were kept into the small world by Lu Ming. The heaven realm suddenly became empty. Only Lu Ming and Zulong were left under the heaven-suppressing sigil. Lu Ming, let's start. Zulong said. All right. Lu Ming nodded. The two of them began to work on tearing the heaven-suppressing sigil. If they attacked from within the heaven realm, they could easily tear down the heaven-suppressing sigil, especially since Lu Ming could dominate the power of this world. Sila! Not long after, the heaven-suppressing seal was finally torn apart by the two of them, revealing a pitch-black lunnel. 23. Chapter 2567. Rushing into the desolate universe. Lu Ming, I'm counting on you. The ancestral dragon turned into a ray of light and flew into Lu Ming's small world, disappearing. Now, Lu Ming's cultivation was stronger than Zulong's. With fewer people, it was more convenient to move around. Primal universe, here I come. Lu Ming muttered and turned to look at the land of the Heaven Realm. After they left, the Yuan Luo Palace would definitely not destroy the Heaven Realm, the Primordial Realm, and the Evil God Realm. They would definitely let living beings in and turn them into farms. One day I will take back this place, Lu Ming muttered. He then stepped into the Pares Sage and disappeared. The primeval universe was vast and boundless. It was a greater world, also known as the Divine Realm. This was the final path for all the experts in the small Kiliacosm. After all the living beings in the small Kiliacosm cultivated to the demigod realm, they would leave the small Kiliacosm and come to the primal universe. There were countless experts and gods gathered here. There were countless stars in the primeval universe, and there were also countless life planks suitable for living beings to live on. They were divided into countless forces of various sizes. The chaotic astral river was a well-known chaotic place in the primal universe. It was a place where countless races and countless extremely evil people gathered. In this boundless galaxy, there were many life planets and forces of different sizes. The Yuan Luo Palace was one of them. It occupied more than a dozen vital planks and had countless experts. Kong Long was the young master of the Yuan Luo Palace. He was very talented and had reached the demigod realm at a young age. Ah was highly regarded by the palace master of the Yuan Luo Palace and was given a life planet as his territory. This life planet was the dark underworld star. The underworld star was extremely huge. Half of it was a continent, while the other half was an ocean. Its territory was not something that the Heaven Realm, Primordial Realm, and Evil God Realm could compare to. Even if the Heaven Realm, Primordial Realm, and Evil God Realm were all added together, their area would not even be 1/10,000th of the size of the planet. In the Heaven Realm, Primordial Realm, and Evil God Realm, they were small Kiliacosm attached to the shadowed star, and their Paes sages were connected to the planet. It was a vast mountain. On one of the peaks, Kong Long sat on a chair. Two young women were saging his shoulders. Is there still no news of that small world? Kong Long asked. He had a bald head with some black runes on it. He was very similar to one of the burly men who had entered the Heaven Realm before. They were from the same race. Young master, there's still no news. An old man bowed and reported. You're really useless. You've been in there for more than 10 days and there's still no news. Even a small Kiliacosm took such a long time. I've really raised you for nothing. Kong Duo's face darkened. On the side, other than the old man, there were two other burly men. However, at this moment, they were all silent, not daring to make a sound. Give them 1 more month. If there's still no news after 1 month, you guys can attack and destroy that small Kiliacosm. It's just a small Kiliacosm. I don't want it anymore. Kong Long said through gritted teeth. Yes, yes. On the side, the others nodded. Suddenly, a voice came from afar. Young master, there's movement in the small world. A skinny young man, who was not much older than Kong Long, flew over and said, There's movement. Su Tu and the others have probably settled it. Let's go and take a look. Kong Long took the lead and flew forward. The others followed. There was a valley in front of them. In the valley, there was a huge black vortex that was constantly spinning. When Kong Long and the rest arrived, they heard rumbling sounds coming from the black vortex. Not long after, the sound disappeared. They're here. Kong Long and the others' eyes flickered as they saw a figure appear from the vortex. Then, the figure slowly became clear. Kong Long and the others were stunned. This was because they didn't recognize the figure. He wasn't one of the people they had sent out. Instead, he was a young man in his 20s. He was handsome and had a straight posture. This young man was naturally Lu Ming, who had come from the Heaven Realm. Stop him. Kong Long saw that it was not one of his men and waved his hand. At once, the 5 or 6 burly men who were guarding the place moved and surrounded Lu Ming, exuding a shocking aura. Ethereal God Realm. They're all Ethereal God Realm. And they're all at level 2 or 3 of Ethereal God Realm. Lu Ming's pupils suddenly constricted. This troublesome. These people's cultivation levels were too high. Among the 6 burly men surrounding Lu Ming, he could sense that at least 2 of them were not weaker than Su Tu and were 3rd-level Void God Realm powerhouses. The other 4 were also at the 2nd level of the Void God Realm. As for the young man not far away, Lu Ming could tell at a glance that he was a demigod. However, the two burly men and the old man behind the young man were unfathomable. It was impossible to estimate their exact cultivation. Lu Ming's heart sank. Such power was not something he could contend with. In the heaven realm, Lu Ming could rule the heaven realm's primordial realm and the evil god realm. He could directly mobilize the energy of the heaven realm's primordial realm and the evil god realm. Therefore, he could casually kill third-level void god realm existences. However, after leaving the heaven realm and coming to the primeval universe, Lu Ming naturally could not mobilize the energy of the heaven realm, the primordial realm, and the evil god realm. Even if Lu Ming's combat strength was doubled, he would not be a match for a third-level void god level. Not to mention, there were even stronger existences. However, Lu Ming would not sit still and wait for death. He instinctively released his aura and was on guard. Only at the transformation void martial stage? At the sight of Lu Ming's aura, not only was Kong Long stunned, but the others were as well. Then, one by one, they relaxed and revealed relaxed expressions. I was only at the transformation void martial stage. Any one of them could suppress him with a flip of their hand. What was there to be nervous about? Initially, they had thought that Lu Ming was a great expert. Everyone's expressions fell into Lu Ming's size. He had an idea. A transformation void martial stage. Kid, did you secretly run out? Kong Long asked coldly. He thought that Lu Ming must have sneaked out when Su Tu and the rest were not prepared. That's right. What do you want? Lu Ming pretended that his expression had changed drastically. He retreated continuously, looking nervous. He really sneaked out. Kong Long sneered. Let me ask you, how are the people who entered your world? What are you doing? Those detestable guys are Ma's sacring. They're killing innocents. They're simply inhumane. Lu Ming pretended to be furious. He was extremely furious. Ha ha ha. Kong Long and the rest laughed. Forget it, let them play. Kid, kneel down and surrender. I have something to ask you. Kong Long waved his hand. You want me to surrender? Dream on. I am the #1 heaven's pride in the heaven realm. I can see that you are not old. I challenge you now. Do you dare to accept my challenge? Lu Ming shouted. How dare you? What qualifications do you have to challenge the young master? You're just an ant. I'll kill you with one palm. 1F, the burly men said ferociously. Hold on. Kong Long waved his hand and stopped the burly man. 23. Chapter 2568. Pretending to be weak, Kong Long waved his hand and stopped the burly man. Ah looked at Lu Ming with interest and said, You're the #1 heaven's favorite in your world? That's right. You don't look too old. Do you dare to accept my challenge? Lu Ming said loudly. How long have you been cultivating? If you cultivate for too long, you won't be qualified to be my opponent. Kong Long said arrogantly. I've been cultivating for over 8,000 years. Lu Ming said, deliberately with arrogance. Al had heard from the ancestral dragon that anyone who had cultivated for less than 10,000 years in the primeval universe would be considered a talent of the younger generation. Therefore he said 8,000 years on purpose. You've cultivated for 8,000 years to reach this level of cultivation. Not bad. All right, I'll play a few moves with you. Kong Long said arrogantly as he stepped forward. He was very curious about the abilities of a prodigy from a small kiliacosm. He was a prodigy himself and naturally wanted to test Lu Ming's skills. Young master, don't take the risk. One of the burly men said worriedly. What did you just say? Risk. Are you looking down on me, thinking that I will lose to a native from a small kiliacosm? Kong Long stopped in his tracks. His eyes were cold as he looked at the burly man. His face was dark. The burly man's expression changed and his back was covered in cold sweat. He knelt down in fear and said, young master, I didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean it that way. Please spare my life, young master. Kong Long was the son of the hall master of the Origin Luo Palace. He was very talented and doted on. Otherwise, the entire planet of the underworld wouldn't be his territory. Moreover, Kong Long was cruel and merciless. Anyone who made him unhappy would die. It would be strange if he wasn't scared to death. I've been cultivating for more than 500 years and I've already reached the demigod realm. My combat strength can kill a first-level ethereal god realm expert. Do you really think that an aboriginal from a small world can harm me? Kong Long spoke again, his voice even colder. No, how can this be? Young Master's divine power is unparalleled, and he's a peerless heaven's favorite. How can this native be Young Master's opponent? Yes. I bet that this native can't withstand 3 moves from Young Master. No, 1 move will be enough. The others all spoke up and started to flatter him. Only then did Kong Long's face look a little better. You guys step back a little. Don't get in the way. Kong Long waved his hand. The others could only retreat. From their point of view, Lu Ming was only at the transformation void martial stage. Moreover, an aboriginal from a small kiliacosm posed no threat to Kong Long at all. They were not worried about this. Lu Ming secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had achieved his goal. As long as these people looked down on him, he would challenge Kong Long and take him as a hostage. Only then would he have a chance of survival. He put on an act and Kong Long fell for it. At the same time, he was secretly shocked. Kong Long had only cultivated for about 500 years, and he had already reached the demigod realm. In the heaven realm, the primordial realm, and the evil god realm, this was an unbelievable thing. He had cultivated for less than 500 years, but he was different. He couldn't be explained by common sense. In terms of true cultivation, he wasn't even a demigod. In addition, people like Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and Dandan couldn't be judged with common sense. On the other hand, Kong Long was able to cultivate to the demigod realm in 500 years. This kind of talent was extremely shocking. Moreover, he said that his combat strength could rival a first-level void god realm existence. The primeval universe was indeed not something that the heaven realm, the primordial realm, or the evil god realm could compare to. The moment Lu Ming came out, he met a powerful heaven's favorite. Kid, let's do it. Let me see what you can do. A native from a small kiliacosm. Kong Long stepped forward, not far from Lu Ming, his face full of pride. Room. Lu Ming made his move. However, he did not use the path of domination. Instead, he simply relied on his physical strength and threw a punch. What a stable ABCE. Lu Ming could feel the difference when he threw a punch. The power of his physical body was equivalent to that of a peak heavenly emperor. If he were in the heaven realm, primordial realm, or evil god realm, the SPASCE would collapse into pix with 1 punch. But now, he found that the SPABCE was extremely stable, and not even a ripple was produced. Small tricks. Kong Long smiled disdainfully and threw a punch as well. Ili's fist was covered with a thin layer of divine power. Boom! Their fists collided heavily. Lu Ming's body shook violently and he was sent flying backward, spurting out a mouthful of blood. How can he be the #1 heaven's favorite in a small kiliacosm with such strength? Small world, you're really a native, country B Yum Kin. I'll cripple you now and take you back to refine medicine. Kong Long's contempt grew. He waved his hand and attacked Lu Ming continuously. When the rest of the people saw that Lu Ming had been beaten to the point of vomiting blood by Kong Long in 1 move, they immediately relaxed. In their opinion, Lu Ming was indeed an ordinary transformation void martial artist. He was no match for Kong Long. Lu Ming tried his best to resist and pretended to be defeated. In fact, he was secretly activating the battle formula. Kong Long's cultivation was at the demigod realm and his combat power was indeed very strong. He far said the demigods that Lu Ming had encountered. In the heaven realm, the primordial realm, and the evil god realm, no other demigod could compare to him. It was not a lie for him to say that he could fight with a first-level virtual god. Therefore, Lu Ming wanted to trigger the doubling of combat strength. This way, he could subdue Kong Long in 1 fell swoop before the others could react. Ha, brat. Kneel down and beg for mercy. Perhaps I can show you mercy and spare your life. Kong Long laughed arrogantly as his attacks became more and more violent. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The double combat power of the battle formula had been triggered. Is that so? The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled into a strange smile. Boom! Lu Ming retaliated. He stretched out his hand and the way of the Dominator burst forth, crushing Kong Long's attack. He grabbed Kong Long's wrist and shook hard. Kacha! Kong Long's body trembled like a sieve, his bones breaking inch by inch. At the same time, Lu Ming grabbed Kong Long's neck. Kong Long was like a pool of mud, unable to move at all. All of this happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint. By the time the others realized it, it was already too late. What's going on? Kid, what are you doing? Let go of the young master. You're looking for death. The others roared in anger and exploded with a shocking aura. Lu Ming's pupils constricted. The two burly men and the elder behind Kong Long were definitely at least 4th-tier Void God realm. They were extremely terrifying. Take one step forward and hell die. Lu Ming said coldly. The path of domination had enveloped Kong Long. With a single thought, Kong Long would die. Those people stopped in their tracks, not daring to move forward. Kid, lowly barbarian, let me go now. Kong Long roared. He naturally understood now that Lu Ming had been pretending. He had pretended to be weak so that he could take advantage of the situation to trap him. Chapter 2569 Escape. Let you go? You're really naive. If I let you go now, wouldn't I be courting death? Lu Ming sneered, his eyes filled with killing intent. He swept his gaze over the people around him and said, Move, let me leave or I'll kill him. You dare? Kid, do you know who he is? He's the young master of the Yuanluo Palace, the son of the palace master. If you dare to touch him, you'll end up in a miserable state, do you understand? The elder roared, his eyes filled with cold killing intent. If not for his apprehension towards Kong Long, he would have killed Lu Ming with a single blow. The son of the palace master of the Yuanluo Palace? That's even better. If I kill him, all of you will be buried with him. Come on, we'll die together. Lu Ming said coldly. You. The old man and the two men were so angry that they almost vomited blood, but they didn't dare to act rashly. Lu Ming was right. Kong Long was the favorite of the ballmaster of the Yuanluo Hall. The hallmaster was known for his ruthlessness. If Kong Long died, they would be buried with him. Kid, you're finished. I'm telling you, there's no way for you to escape. I'm going to kill you and all the people in your small world. I won't let anyone go. They'll all die. Kong Long roared madly. The thought of being captured by a native from a small kiliacosm made him go crazy. If this were to spread, wouldn't he become laughingstock? Blowing. Lu Ming said coldly. Then, he swung his palm like a knife and one of Kong Long's arms flew out. Ah! Kong Long screamed in pain. At his level, he could quickly recover even if his body was torn apart. However, the pain was real. How audacious! You're looking for death. The others also roared in anger. You're talking nonsense. Next time, I'll directly destroy his divine flame. Now, all of you, get out of my way and let me leave. I'll naturally let him go. Lu Ming said coldly. Let go of the young master and we'll let you leave. The old man said. Do you think I'm stupid? I'll let him go, and you'll kill me immediately. Let me leave first. Otherwise, I'll have to cripple him first. Lu Ming said. His dominator's power transformed into a sharp sword and pierced into Kong Long's dantian, trying to destroy his divine fire. Get out of the way, you idiots, get out of the way, let him go, let him go. Kong Long shouted hysterically. He was afraid. He was truly afraid. Once the divine flame was destroyed, his cultivation would be crippled. So what if he let Lu Ming go? In his heart, even if there were 10,000 or 100 million Lu Mings, they were not as important as a single hair on his head. He swore that once he escaped, he would send experts to capture Lu Ming and grind his bones to dust. The people at the side had ugly expressions, but now they could only move aside. The old man and the others retreated to the sides. Buzz! Lu Ming carried Kong Long and dashed past them, leaving the encirclement. Let go of the young master now. The old man roared. When I'm safe, I'll naturally let him go. Also, you'd better not chase after me, or I'll immediately cripple him. Lu Ming said coldly. The old man and the rest were extremely furious. They wanted to cut Lu Ming into 8 pieces, but they did not dare to pursue him. They could only watch helplessly. Lu Ming flew at full speed and disappeared from their sight in the blink of an eye. Quick, report this to the higher-ups and send experts at the 7th level of the Void God realm and above. We must kill that brat and save young master. Hurry up! The old man and the others immediately took action and left the place. Their cultivations were still insufficient. If there were powerhouses at 7th level Void God realm and above, even if Lu Ming took down Kong Long, those people would be able to kill Lu Ming quickly and save Kong Long before he could react. The elder and the rest left the place one after another while Lu Ming carried Kong Long and flew at top speed. The SPACE of this primeval universe is too stable, and the gravity is shockingly strong. As Lu Ming flew, he wanted to tear open the SPACE and travel through it. However, he realized that he could not do it. In the heaven realm with his cultivation, he could travel from one world to another in an instant with a single step. But now, he realized that even if he used his full strength, he couldn't tear open SPACE. Not to mention tearing SPACE, he couldn't even create a ripple. Moreover, the gravity here was extremely shocking. Lu Ming's flying speed was a few hundred times slower than when he was in the heaven realm. What a dense divine qi! Then, Lu Ming took a deep breath and felt that the divine qi in the world was surging toward him like a tide. Yes, it was divine qi, not original qi. The SPACE here was filled with divine qi, which was exactly the same as the one in Netherworld Mountain. However, the divine qi in Netherworld Mountain could not be compared to this place at all. It was much thinner than here. Although Netherworld Mountain was also sealed there from the primeval universe, it was normal for its divine qi to be thin after such a long time. The cultivation environment here is too good. If I cultivate here, my cultivation speed will be at least 10 times faster than in the heaven realm. In some good places, it might even be faster. Lu Ming pondered. No wonder Kong Long had attained the cultivation of a demigod in less than 500 years of cultivation. The cultivation conditions here were completely incomparable to those in the heaven realm. The great Kiliacosm in the primeval universe was also known as the divine realm. The end point of all the small Kiliacosm was not just a saying. Brat, you're here, let me go. Kong Long shouted again. Shut up and let you go. As far as I know, the entire underworld star is the territory of the Yuan Luo Palace. When I'm safe, I'll naturally let you go. Lu Ming said coldly. You. Kong Long was furious, but he could only hold it in under the Xueqi stances. Lu Ming kept flying, looking for an isolated place to fly. After half a day, he had no idea how far he had flown. Al flew to a barren mountain and there was no one around. Lu Ming stuffed Kong Long into the mountain and river diagram and continued flying forward. In the blink of an eye, another day had passed. Lu Ming flew into a desolate mountain range. Roar! All of a sudden, an explosive roar came from below. The roar shook the sky and the mountains trembled. Then, a bevel-o-ob-deeb-y mouth rushed out from below and bit at Lu Ming. Lu Ming was shocked. He burst out with all his strength and used the way of the master to stomp down. The ruler's power condensed into a huge purple gold foot, which stepped on the mouth. With a loud bang, the purple gold foot collapsed, and Lu Ming was sent flying by a powerful force. What shocking power! It's equivalent to a second-level ethereal god realm expert. What's that? Lu Ming was secretly shocked. He used this force to fly at high speed. Bang! Bang! The earth rumbled as Lu Ming saw a huge creature as large as a mountain. It trod on the ground and chased Alter Lu Ming. $2, you're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.